It was rumored as if the hero was just standing on the side and quietly watching everything that was happening. His healing magic lost its relevance because now they were so powerful that no danger could threaten them. The man noted that it is unlikely that someone would like the neighborhood with a stranger from the deaf outskirts. The hero stopped the man, reminding them that they were partners. On this, Ashton just laughed, struck by the fact that Zeno has not yet realized the main. I realized that from the very beginning he had no room in this world. Having thought about the harsh social barriers of this country, from the royal family and nobles to simple burghers and disadvantaged, he remembered how often he had to demolish humiliation. Therefore, the modest housing suited him, at least some roof over his head, and already grateful for it. All this happened because he sincerely wanted to thank the Bastion, who once saved him from poverty. He thought about how, without being able to gain magical knowledge somewhere, he mastered the art of magic on his own. Despite all the difficulties, he never gave up and tirelessly sought for his goal. He stated that the finale came. It was no longer with him, after which he threw a coin on the ground. The hero wondered what it should mean. The man surprised that he seems to be the first time. A golden coin, which is a simple wicked, such as Xenos, would not have been able to earn in his entire life. He asked the hero whether everything became clear to him, and heard a surprise in response. They say even it is difficult to imagine that such a treacherous traitor could appear in their team. He warned strictly, this information should be kept secret and not disclosed. In fact, the team did not even suspect who had to thank their unique talents. He has not even realized how this separation would respond in his fate. He noted that, even by traveling as an adventure seeker, he still remains poor and was unable to join the guild. Suddenly, the hero heard a cry that broke the silence. One man, turning to his comrades, asked why they thought of shooting at her, calling them unaccompanied. He shouted angrily that he was about to earn money, and in the meantime, others hurried to justify and apologize. She was saying that she was constantly looking for an opportunity to escape. The Hay noticed a girl who, stretching on the way, had an arrow sticking out of her back. The boys assured that she was doomed, and one of them exclaimed with despair, asking how he was able to hit the Elfine. At this point, Geo returned to the company. He wondered if the bullet did not touch the baby. Here, the guy suddenly intervened. He said loudly that it was his slave. The man threw a hero sharply so that he did not interfere and get away. Zeno stretched out the golden round and wondered if it would be enough. One of the boys exploded with a bold exclamation, calling him a fool, and his friend immediately thundered, "Continue!" She will turn to the girl again, asking her well-being, but she will let his head and look a little uncertain. She grabbed the arrow lightly and pulled it out with one sharp movement. He touched the palm of the girl's back and began to treat her slowly. Daryl wondered if she was still alive. The hero tried to reassure her, promising that he would certainly come to the rescue. The tower in response only dryly noted that all these efforts were in vain. The Elfian could not hide her admiration. She got up and looked around, not hiding her surprise. The Elfine, with a smile and relief, corrupted that the pain in the back disappeared, and the bleeding was stopped. The hero, having presented a healer, explained that he had already pulled the arrow and completely treated her wounds. She noted in surprise that there was no trace left of the wound, and sincerely confessed that she was certain this time her life would break. Some insisted that she was too dramatic because of this scratch. She exclamedly exclaimed, asking if he was really joking. The girl stopped for a moment before answering. Zero wondered what had happened. She was upset and took her eyes down. Looking in the eye, she sincerely expressed his gratitude to him. Looking at her, he wondered, when did someone sincerely thank him for his help and care? He remembered the grueling workouts where he bleed in and blood. But the young man did not trust him. For him, spells, which you did not see with his own eyes, seemed fictional. But the time to prove something is left. The hero felt true at once in how they did with him. The young man asked the girl whether those people were slaves. She nodded and told that she fell into her hands yesterday. She wondered money. The hero said whether she referred to the gold coins he gave to them. He reassured her, explaining that those coins got it completely free of charge. He noted that becoming a victim of slave trademen is a true horror. The man wondered where Lily lives, and suggested that he personally spend her home. Carol dropped her head and quietly confessed that she was nowhere to live. The Hay plunged into reflections. In the features of this girl he clearly saw the echo of his own past. It was strange and bitter. Why was the elfish child doomed to be wandering out the street? He shared from Lily that they had a serious problem right now. Their eyes were crossed in silent understanding. The hero suggested that he start to break away for a snack. In the hall, Lily was confused around, fascinated by what she saw. Lily wondered in Hay whether he wanted to eat, but he just shook his head and replied that he did not want food now. He would drink water better. The man, squeezing his hand firmly, asked him to bring him water. The hero drew attention to the traces of burns and ball wounds. When asked if the gun had magical properties, the man replied that the event had suddenly caught him. He confessed that he could no longer use his hand, and now he has only one desire: to get rid of pain. Rhinos restrained that the man did not dramatize the situation. Though the cut and not so petty, he will quickly pass. The hero put his hand on the wounded place, using his healing power. The man looked at his own hand with surprise. No trace of the wound, the skin became intact, as if nothing happened. With laughing in his voice, he stated that Zeno was a true virtuoso in the art of healing. The girl noted that everything happens in the same way as it should be, isn't it? The guy nodded in agreement, that he will help people recover. He confessed that the lack of funds does not allow him to obtain a license and start his own business, so he would have to treat people secretly, breaking the law. She exclaimed with delight that it would be useful for him. The hero did not hide his sincere surprise. The hero solemnly stated that he would now become her mentor, and she must follow him. She agreed, however, she noted, only for a while, until she found a reliable shelter. The girl, in response, exclaimed happily from delight. At this point, the hero thought, finally he will be able to live as he always dreamed of, doing his favorite business and receiving gratitude and reward for it. He promised to himself, if he can give someone happiness, his life will have real meaning. There was no living soul here. One of them confessed that he was waiting for such words. He said that the terrible epidemic had once covered this area, causing the city to decline and remain deserted. He also added that without a proper license, they are forbidden to work in large cities with a dense population. Casting his gaze on one of the houses, he suggested entering inside. Pearl declared herself the most powerful among the demons in the whole hierarchy of the undead. Although her appearance was not different among people, but she had a power capable of depriving her life of one touch. The girl made a call to the light, and a bright ball broke out in her palms. The hero could not hide his surprise. Suddenly, Lily caught something strange. The air cut a sharp roar. All of them came in front of her, as if spreading in the air. Lily exclaimed, "Lift it up here!" It seemed that he guessed. Here, someone passed. Among all the buildings in the area, this looked the most careful. The girl shouted to him, trying to bring her senses. Ray inhaled on full breaths, catching the aroma of real life. She came close to the hero, grabbed him firmly and quietly but persistently, demanded to give her her life. Lily, excitedly, turned to him with an exclamation. He directed the healing energy on the ghost. The blow hit the girl's stomach, from which she was thrown back. She wondered if it was really a fire. In response, he stated that in the underground maze, he had already dealt with at least hundreds of such creatures. Lily was not surprised and asked with distrust. The hero sincerely apologized to the ghost, explaining that they were passionate about this mysterious building. He assured that they did not intend to disturb his peace, and carefully asked for permission to share this place with them. He was asked what he was doing, and he began to retell his own story again. Meanwhile, Zeno and Sony used the magic of healing, which was a lot struck and frightened the ghost. She apologized and frankly acknowledged that she had attacked him. In response, he reassured her. They say, should not be taken close to heart. She stressed again that she did not intention to apologize. She added that he became the first to despise Camila, the Ghost Queen. Turning to Xenos, he watched the ghosts and finally said that he wanted to discuss everything in a calm atmosphere. The ghosts appeared on all sides by surrounding the characters. He drew a magical circle that served as a reliable shield for him and Lily. As soon as the powerful healing came, all the ghosts gradually dissolved in the air. Lily was surprised. Her gaze slid to the hero and she asked who he really was. The man explained that he works as a modest underground doctor. Ray asked in surprise, not believing heard. The hero apologized and specified that they would only need a small office in the bedroom. He was completely confused, and it immediately caught his eyes even without any explanation. She noted that it allows him to use the first floor, and the second leaves behind. Tote sincerely thanked for his support, especially emphasizing his gratitude. Have passed a few days. Lilina Label was still silently on the table. He confessed to Xenos that she was sad with boredom. In response, Xenos assured that he easily embarrassed the case. It will remove the house, repair the room, and arrange everything so that the room becomes a real cozy office. She noted that it had been a few days, and no client has not yet appeared. So she asked if she should try to go outside and lure someone inside. The hero immediately warned, if she decides to do so, the royal police are sure to be interested in. Lily, with irony, replied, "In this case, no one will visit them at all." Lou was well aware that there was no reason to anxiety, so he gently reassured it and promised, someone would certainly come very soon. She smiled warmly to the boy, looking carefully at him. Before them, a familiar man-scurry was put. The girl immediately recognized him and reported that she had already met this creature earlier. He explained that he received burns from a magical gun, and this man was not an average citizen. He also added that such persons are often forced to avoid ordinary hospitals because of the special circumstances of their lives. She approached carefully and asked to look at her. The girl sank on a chair, taking a place opposite him. She confessed to him in her gunshot wound, and the consequences of this were obvious to the naked eye. Her hand looked really awful. She wondered if he could cure it. The man replied to this. If the wound was fresh, the ball could be reached, and the wound would quickly tighten. However, the girl noted that 3 days have passed since the injury. He noted that in such a situation there is a serious threat to her hand, so it is more appropriate to amputate the limb to prevent the spread of poison throughout the body. The girl calmly agreed, assuring that she was aware of everything, and wondered what the cost of this procedure would be. The boys shouted in amazement without hiding their surprise. The boys did not hide their surprise and even suspected that Hay was crazy if he was asking a whole million for just cutting her hand. The nurse, meanwhile, asked Sun to calm down. He emphasized that the amount was impressively great, and asked the hero to clarify whether he was aware of it. It was a matter of Sophia from Storms. The robot dangerously brought the blade of the knife to the throat of the hero, creating a significant threat. She confessed that she was hearing about it for the first time. The hero, stunned, asked if she did not really joke, and asked if other healers could do the same. He was comfortable on the bed. Zeno reported that it was time to start. With the help of magic, he brought out a perfectly sharp scalpel in his hand. Lily followed the course of surgery. Watching the doctors amputated the hand of Zofia, he assured that he would be able to restore her strength. Raising his hands, he added, "The protective spell has already kept the bleeding. With each new use of magic, wound regeneration is increasingly rapid." Finally, she brought up a new forearm. Xenos has admired that he had completed the treatment. The girl was completely healed. The sample did not restrain surprise and said it was a real miracle. She sincerely admitted that she met with such incredible healing abilities for the first time in her life. Her brother did not hide her delight. He stressed that the spectacle was truly impressive, especially in a moment when he suddenly noticed a bright glow in the window on the ground floor. The surprise engulfed everyone when it turned out that Ray was living nearby. Camilla sincerely confessed that she once wanted him failure and even dreamed of breaking his fate. Probos did not resist and asked what made her be so cruel. Zeno assured this that nevertheless Camilla actually has a good heart. However, Guy noted, now something has changed. She looked at them, and barely smiling, noted that this doctor was truly impressive and unobtrusively captivated with her personality. She confessed that she liked her, and promised to visit yet. The hero smiled in response and reminded her not to pay. Gradually, the glory of the mysterious healer was growing faster, and his name became more and more famous. They turned to him, sincerely thank you for the assistance in healing. She brewed tea for the hero, and he sincerely thanked her for the care. Seeing Camilla, he wondered if she would join them today. But she smiled and answered confidently that, of course, she would not miss this occasion. She was just starting to talk about the last tribe, and suddenly the air spread a powerful sound wave. Everyone immediately guessed who appeared on stage. Wolves unexpectedly got in the house. The girls exclaimed, "Who could imagine that the medical center is located here?" He nodded and asked who she was. The girl called the Linaga, the leader of the werewolf clan. The girl noted that she was aware of the end of the working day. The hero in response said he could remain if an urgent business happened. Without thinking, she reached out to him. However, for him, Xenos, this event is really exceptional. She noted that, although they had to fight Sophia more than once, they became more and more vigorous and annoying. And it seemed rather strange. He replied that in the event of his death, there would no longer be one who could cure Sophia's subordinates. And then the girl would have a chance to win. In response, she became angry and raised the axe, aiming at him. The blow was powerful, but no changes happened. It was a maze to the heart. She did not fit in her head, as he managed to avoid at least the slightest scratch. The Hei reported that he defended the girl with a special magical barrier. Meanwhile, she said to the wolves with hope, asking for support. The girls shouted indignantly that, if they are not able to destroy it, they will erase the entire medical center from the face of the earth. They warned that he did not dare to underestimate the power of the wolf. Suddenly, everyone froze in place. Link was surprised to ask why it suddenly became so winter. Suddenly, Nile materialized before them. The wolves shouted frightened, suspecting the trap. The outraged Camilla exclaimed how she was boldly dare to attack her fortress. Zeno stopped her, explaining that he understands her experience but his purpose, to protect his life, not to select it. Harold nodded in agreement. The hero sincerely thanked Camille for the patience and that she did not give the will of anger. She smiled and noticed that she took care of the safety of her fortress. In addition, now there is a much warmer and more cozy atmosphere than before. They went down to the ground floor. Lingo turned to the son of a wolf, wondering if he heard the ghost. The son of a wolf was surprised to look up. The girl returned to Xenos at this point. She rushed to his feet, begging for forgiveness. The hero did not hide his surprise. Such a reaction embarrassed him. The girl unexpectedly stated that no one even suspected who was in fact heading the family. The man wanted to deny something, but Lingua, in a powerful voice, ordered everyone to bow her head immediately. The wolves executed the order, and then solemnly stated that by this gesture, they certify their deep respects by Mr. Xenos, the ruler of the cut, the majestic and the highest being. He asked that he would pay attention. He exclaimed with surprise. Xenos said that there were lizards first, werewolves behind them, and now orcs are already coming on the horizon. Zero wondered if it was a leader's illness if he did not appear on his own. Orc explained that the leader is so weakened that it is impossible to even move. Zeno concluded that if the patient is not able to come, the doctor should visit him personally. Saying goodbye to Lily, he went on a journey, and the orc helped to navigate, showing the right road. He stands in front of the orc leader. He appeals to Levi, notifying her, which brought to her an underground healer named Xenos. She said with a smile that it was fine and immediately called her name. The hero asked where she knew about him. Levi, with a light smile, noted that in the dungeons, especially in their deepest parts, his name is a real legend. It was an unconcealed man. The girls shared that the lizards and werewolves were sincerely valued by the unsurpassed healer, but they did not want to focus on the orcs once again, so they were silent about it. She explained that she learned about everything in this way. The girl asked if he knew why she could not move. The man assured that he did not find external injuries, so he undertook to investigate the condition of the internal organs. The hero wondered. Magical stones are crystals imbued with the magic of the elements. They can exhibit spell-like properties, and explosive stones are considered to be the most powerful among attacking artifacts. He noted that as far as he was visible, she was distinguished by a wolf appetite. The hero noted that it may sound funny, but leaving everything as it is, over time the stone will go out on its own. The girl did not agree with his words. The orcs closed around her with a dense ring, shouting that there is a joint death here next to her. But the girl said adamantly, "They have to leave here and take away the danger as far as possible." He wondered what was waiting for him. Levi in response reported that they intend to hand over all his treasures. Such an answer caused him a genuine surprise. She stretched the key to him, saying that in the event of a stone explosion, their tribe was doomed to death. So it is better to trust him than to allow robbers to take them to the thread. She shared that she was aware of his impartiality, as well as the fact that he examined for free children, to whom she had great sympathy. The orcs shouted, following her, the girl ordering her to stay still and not move. She shouted, covered by the fear of Levi. The rest rushed to the doctor concerning what was happening. Their voices cut the silence sharply, demanding that it stop immediately. He showed them a stone of an explosion, firmly clamped in his hand. The orcs froze in surprise. They wondered what he just did. He described how he stretched her stomach, got a stone inside and sewed the wound carefully. He heard the stunning Levi. He could not believe in what he said. Grabbed the stone so firmly that the bones were whitewashed. The explosion came. His moon immediately responded around, flying on all sides. Frightened, they fastened their eyes firmly. When they dared to open them, they were surprised to find that everything remained as it was. Nothing happened. Even in the province, people could not imagine that Xenos survived. Suddenly, from the crowd came a shout. Someone stunned that it was a real miracle. He apologized to the fact that he intervened in such a moving moment, but had to turn the key from the treasury. The hero stretched the girl with the key. She noted that he would be able to quietly and unnoticed the treasure. Instead, Zuno expressed his expectations. He counts on a decent salary for the task, because he does not consider this mission so significant that it is to risk a whole wealth. She shouted happily. She rushed to the hero into the arms and smiled widely, confessed that she liked. She noted that he is now a rescuer for the orcs, and in the case of any troubles, everyone will immediately seek him for help. On this, the man just shrugged. They say, really did not particularly seek such a role. She admitted that she was hungry and wondered if she wanted to try hay with her rice balls. However, the guy replied that he could no longer help her. The hay was motionless at the table. He asked if something unusual happened. The girl replied that Sophia, Ling, and Levi often come to her recently. She specified, Sophia appears every time, Lingo comes every Wednesday, and Levi is always visited on Friday. The hero wondered whether he was aware of the cause of their visits. They replied that they just have a heap of free time. The girl denied. They say, such significant persons are unlikely to afford to mock. Xenos confessed that in this case he did not fit him in his head. Lily, however, suggested that. Camille finally appeared and, without hiding the feelings, confessed in her love. She noted that she seemed like they were in love with Xenos. He shrugged and rejected such an opinion, calling it a full delusion. They say, he was just an underground healer without a single license. She assured that from her vigilant look you did not hide anything. In their eyes, love burns, and she, among other things, has lived for 3 centuries. She confessed that she was worried about this moment. The hero wondered what was the cause of her anxiety. She replied that soon these 3 girls would start a real battle for his heart. He only laughed mockingly, calling it a complete nonsense. Camilla suggested that Lily to be fully to cheer her up. At the same time, she emphasized that women who are truly in love have a special charm. Lily sincerely thanked her for the warm words. The ghost rose to the 2nd floor again, sinking into the reflections on the mysterious hay and the true purpose of her unexpected visit. On Monday, Sophia visited the doctor and suddenly declared his intention to launch a war against other clans. She asked if he would support her. Such a confession was a lot of stunning the man. On Wednesday, Ling appeared in a room with an unexpected ad. She decided to destroy everything she connected. She looked closely at him. She asked if he decided to support her. On Friday, Levi appeared on the doorstep. She firmly stated that she was going to destroy them. Senyos asked to give them some time. She added that the war would soon unfold. This news has stunned the hero. He assured that he did not understand that is going around. On the doorstep, a fascinating clash for the underground healer. 3 girls are ready to come together in the battle. Planning is over. Sophia confidently stated that today she would show who is a real leader here. Sophia noted that she was once prone to indulgence and pity, but today she was going to act quite differently. She turned to the girls loudly, urging them to stop. The audience immediately responded with loud exclamations. Sophia wondered if his goal was to persuade them to stop the war. Linga confessed that she sincerely respects the hero, but he is not able to fulfill his request. The old enmity between different species was smoldering in the shadows for a long time, waiting for their time to flash with new power. They chose to act at their discretion. Confirming her words, Lily confidently stated it aloud. Sophia, with a smile, noted how good that doctor. Xenos was not against their duel. She suggested to others, maybe the winner will receive the hero as a reward? Like, a wonderful chance? Lily immediately picked up the idea, stating that she also got into the game. Levi noted that only Lily was really worth it. The hero was confused by such words. She reminded him of his own words. They say, there was really no love between them. But suddenly everyone was in a hurry, giving way to an incomprehensible impulse. Lily realized that the events had already gained the course. HIV, like a lightning, flashed between the orcs, tearing the sword. At the same moment she jumped up, swinging her axe and aiming at one of the liberties. She has sparkled her weapon on the enemy. At this point, Levi aimed at a rapid blow to the wolf. She clenched the wolf's muzzle with all her strength, clamping her in her hands. This lasted on, leaving a lot of difficult and dangerous wounds. The writers seemed exhausted. Sophia looked around and then wondered what happened. Observing the orcs and the cucumbers, she sincerely acknowledged that she was not able to cope with such opponents. I am sure she was thrown that, despite the chance to defeat dozens of opponents, they were hardly damaged. Suddenly awareness came to her. She wondered how she did not pay attention to the fact that their wounds disappeared surprisingly quickly. Rose noted that after all, he always had a shaking healing. She smiled when she finally realized the true content of the event. She stressed that it had the responsibility of him to take care of the well-being of others, and was amazed at how long he was worried about the whole community. She added that he did not eventually become someone else, and, in her opinion, could never support only one side. You laughed and quit, that you had to pay for it. Ling asked, why move on? Levi, with a smile, noted that it seems that he would have to pay, and maybe finally it was time to complete everything. The leaders of the clans finally felt that they were tired of carrying the burden of enmity, which was passed down from generation to generation. They were overwhelmed by the realization that endless conflicts only immerse them in the abyss of vain confrontation. So they decided to leave ancient strife and choose the path of peace. The girls were passionate about sharing. Now they have another reason not to give up. They are inspired by Dr. Xenos. The man asked in Lily, which became the topic of their conversation. She said with a smile, the hero is almost nearby. She wondered why he was trying so carefully to help everyone. He replied to this that he once heard from the healer of the words that made a great impression on him. Lily cast a silent look at him. Suddenly, she returned and grabbed his sleeve. She frankly confessed that she liked her. This is the case. The ordinary act of the healer from the slum finally destroyed the long-standing gap of inter-Rayan enmity. From this significant event, Xenos's fate will change forever. In the kingdom, Hasses also raged their events. Carol asked the commander to ask if he was ready to meet her. He immediately recognized the deputy commander Krishna and noted that he had already expected her appearance. Carol wondered what was the reason for such an urgent call. In response, the commander shared his anxiety about anxiety. Intrigued, the girl began to clarify the details, announced that the protracted war between the supernatural beings suddenly ended. They agreed to leave the enmity. Krishna wondered if it was a joke. She recalled that in their area, a ruthless struggle for power has long been going on, which has not yet subsided. Assuming that maybe someone still managed to escape and finally get rid of competitors, the girl doubted. Could those opponents so easy to make peace? They confessed that they were introduced to one person, and this answer was quite surprised by Krishna. The man began the story that the kingdom of Hasses has long been ruled by a strict caste system. Urban residents do not hide indignation with a difficult situation, and their hostility spreads to all aspects of the conflict. Nevertheless, the shaky balance has been kept for many years. She convincingly promised her to trust her, solemnly swearing that their foundation would remain adamant. The man, jokingly baptized her with the Iron Lady, expressed his hope for favorable news. Refrain from loud sneezing. Sometimes it may look uneducated. She assured that she would prepare tea now. The characters also noted that their behavior was too emotional. He put his palm into the wound of Zofia, and in a moment the damaged place was amazingly healed. With a smile, Lily noted that she was affected by his exceptional healing talents. She also noted that it seems that the whole eternity has passed since Sophia first crossed this threshold, only as an ordinary guest. The girl explained that in fact, royal guards consider them criminals and have long been hunting for them. Her brother picked up, they say. They constantly have to defend themselves against annoying pursuers. The girl shared the story of the deputy commander of security, whom everyone knew as an Iron Lady. She was famous for her cruelty and could deprive a person of life without expressing a drop of compassion. She warned Xenos, if such a woman puts his eye on him, the troubles will not be avoided. In addition, she wondered his opinion on this. The louse, stunned, did not restrain the exclamation. She confessed that she did not leave an alarming feeling. But he reassured her, they say. It is not necessary to worry about what has not happened yet. He wondered whether lunch would be coming soon. Lily confirmed this with enthusiasm. He noted that she liked vegetable dishes. Lingda enthusiastically declared that she wanted fish. Levi was convinced that meat is a real gourmet meal. He also noted that no one even asked his opinion here. He noticed that they had shown an excessive resort, and sincerely hoped that he would no longer have to deal with such difficult clients. Traveling the streets, she drew attention to how members of different clans laugh, communicate lively, and raise glasses together. She went on. It was impossible to believe that all this really happens. Seeing the giant, she asked him to ask that he would not be able to distract the creature for several hours. In response, the man wondered what happened. She said she had never watched to treat the rebel with such respect. Lizard said in response, there is nothing surprising, because there has been a long time between their peoples. Having apologized, he noticed that her behavior seemed suspicious, and did not do up whether he was able to cope with such a situation. However, he suggested leaving it behind. noting that it is possible to try to live in peace and harmony. His remarks that the situation is undervalued has caused a new outburst of thoughts. Lizard calmly stated that he was going to go. The girl suddenly cut his way, commanding sharply, and confidently aimed at the gun just in his torso. The man asked who she was. In response, Krishna asked where his home was. The man strongly stated that he would not say anything because this person has repeatedly extended their help. I was already preparing to attack, but I suddenly noticed how Zosha slowly passed me. Krishna, covered by fear, retreated instantly. She realized that on her native land, the leader of the Lizardmen and his brother should not be in a clash with such powerful opponents. She remembered how much their hands were damaged, but she did not understand why they seemed so clean and tidy now. To note that the air was noticeably cold. Silence brought relief and sincere joy. Finally, everyone managed to leave the room. However, the door suddenly dissolved, and a politician appeared on the doorstep. The hero was caught by surprise. It turned out to be Krishna. She confessed that she got lost a little and did not immediately find the way. She asked if he would tell you how to go to the city. The hero, without delay, began to tell her the way in detail. She approached them with a tray in her hands and turned to the girl, asking if she was a new hay patient. She was outraged by the hero's reproach for his ruthlessness. Gathering with his forces, she asked how he dared to turn the girl into a slave, while pulling out a magic gun. She immediately brought the gun just on Zenos and hesitated the trigger without hesitation. After the shot, a thick cloud of smoke rose, and the hero instantly dissolved in this curtain, disappearing from sight. She exclaimed to him, scared. Krishna stated that she could not tolerate those who abduct children, and promised to see how they were punished. She exclaimed to Zenos. Krishna explained to the girl. She is an Elfian, and he is a man. Zenos is neither her father nor the master, and now she is still a baby. She no longer has to live in captivity. She is free. Krishna reassured her, promising not to let the offender escape. However, Lily disagreed with this. She loudly stated that Zenos was not a criminal, but her true savior, who helped her escape from captivity. Krishna was stunned by Herd. Laurel acknowledged that she probably hurried with the conclusions. Lily, stunned, exclaimed, realizing that her shot was futile. A powerful energy seemed to escape from the hero. She could not understand how he managed to maintain the clarity of the mind. She asked, and with relief noted that everything was fine with him, but did not refrain from the question of how he managed to endure it. In response, the guy explained that he was defended by magic. She wondered if he really was telling the truth, because she immediately paid attention. It did not see any, even the slightest scratch. He realized that he had already become famous as a familiar magician, having mastered the art of protection and treatment, and now, with great endurance, tried to explain it. In response, Zeno noted that this is not quite true. She stressed with surprise that she could not be mistaken, because she was the deputy commander of the Royal Guard of Krishna. Her interlocutors, having heard it, were excitedly asked if she really occupied such a responsible position. She was confused. Otherwise, she would probably not be able to cope with this situation. He again asked if she was in fact a deputy commander of guard. The girl smiled and noted that she was recognized faster than the nickname, an Iron Lady, so he may have heard something about her. Zenos did not hide his astonishment. The commissioner gave it to be very grateful for his participation in the investigation of one case. Suddenly, Camilla intervened unexpectedly in the conversation, which was heard their debate at that moment. She admitted that she appeared in these deaf places with a secret task, to find and detain a particular person. The hero was amazed at how she just shared this information with a stranger. The girl also noted that she did so exclusively for the sake of their future cooperation. She emphasized that the Imperial Guard failed to catch the offender, so he is still hiding. In addition, she expressed the assumption that while underground, he could hear something important or useful. Zeno wondered who she was trying to find. She explained that the arbitrator was looking for, the one who put an end to the war between Inhumans and the inhabitants of the slum. The hero is covered by fear. For a moment froze. What happened? The question came. Zenos assured that everything is under control. Meanwhile, Camilla secretly watched them on the other side. Camilla with a smile watched them without restraining laughter. Meanwhile, Krishna noticed how their past beliefs were scattered. It seemed that the struggle between the clans would continue forever. But now everything has changed dramatically. She declared loudly that, as a border for justice, she has no right to leave such an influential figure. She noticed that even under pressure and threats, the monster stubbornly refused to pronounce his name. and it seems that he is able to control their consciousness. The girl carefully suggested that he may not just be a spit, but the right hand of the devil himself. Sinos did not hide astonishment. He wondered if it made sense to seek the answer. Then Krishna interrupted the conversation, specifying that her mother was killed by the disadvantaged. He does not seem to have anyone to find him at all. He had no desire to distinguish between others, and probably wisely would not bother him. The girl turned her gaze on him again. She exclaimed, asking if he knew with this person. The hero in response loudly said that it was only his assumption. Krishna emphasized that he could not simply let him go, because over time he is able to rebel against the country and turn into a serious danger. He confessed that he probably did not have it. He noted that, despite his slight greed, he could not remain indifferent to someone else's pain. After these words, he turned to her. He asked Lily if she was familiar with him, to which Lily, sincerely surprised, replied that she first heard about this. The young man announced the girl who was ready to spend her way back to the city, so she should not be delayed. She wondered in surprise why he was in a hurry. Suddenly her gaze stopped on the bed, and she wondered in surprise why she was right at the door. The guy felt an attack of fear. It seemed strange to call this place for the bedroom, so he explained that the bed was put at the entrance only temporarily. He would just be taken away. The girl stopped, hesitating and thinking about studying the situation. Everyone has a question. Does a girl have the right to use it right now? This place, in her opinion, was ideally suitable for the base for their secret operation, and all the cost of living is ready to take over. After that, the girl wondered if the hero did not object to such an idea. Lily with her friend confusedly looked at. He had no choice as to agree. Krishna thanked him with a grateful smile for his readiness for a common cause. She promised that she would inevitably track the referee, the culprit of all the troubles. The food noted that the number of women who annoyed Xenos at the medical center increased. The night came. She approached the hero, marking the unusual night silence around. Then she wondered if he planned to return home, just fulfilling his mission. She noted that the city, after all, died of a terrible plague. After that, she wondered if the dead could rise from the graves. Susono suggested that the rays were likely to appear. If the girl was frightened, is it more appropriate for her to go back? However, the answer was unambiguous. It is not necessary to force her to return. The challenge of the dead was the highest form of necromancy in the ghost world. Such creatures rarely occurred even among the undead, and to meet them here was absolutely incredible. Watching Camilla Alarmio look somewhere in the distance, the hero inadvertently thought that they probably met here every day. Returning with tea, he hastily put the mug on the table. Zeno smiled apologiously, took the cup and took a sip, however, immediately baked. She apologized and added that her only vulnerable place was a very sensitive tongue. On this hero with a smile noted that she has a lot more weaknesses. Suddenly, her behavior became so strange that he did not resist, and quietly asked what was the matter. She settled on his knees, and she tried to understand what was happening at all. He called her, and she gently held her hand on his hair. He was sitting with a smile admiring Krishna. The hero could not hurt what was happening, because the girl seemed even more capricious than usual. Behind him, Miller laughed, writing off everything on ordinary jealousy. He exclaimed loudly that she scared him, but the ghost calmly remarked, Krishna did not see her. The hero wondered what reason Lily could be jealous of him. Ray explained that he lives under one roof with a woman who suddenly broke into his life, and Lily noticed that their relationship was becoming closer. He noted that he had a fully friendly relationship with inhuman girls. However, it is surprising that without any objections he would agree to give way to him, who recently shot him from a magic gun. Camilla was surprised to point out that the girl white. She acknowledged that the grain of truth was hidden in her statements. She remembered how she wanted to cool his hot tea carefully, smooth his naughty hair, clean the apple with care. He suddenly realized why she treats him with such special care today. Krishna plunged into deep reflections, and in his eyes was a sincere pleasure. Now she skillfully used the technique that Camilla taught her at one time. Returning to the hero, gently press his cheeks with his palms. Lily engulfed severe embarrassment. She exclaimed that she would not allow him to turn her eye that night. The sleepy Lily gently stirs on the knees of Xenos, barely smiling in a dream. Krishna noted that she is probably wrapped in cozy, happy dreams. The hero nodded in response, emphasizing that Lily was a real treasure among friends. He thought in passing that the word with Camilla should be spilled in the near future. He carefully lifted the girl, put her on the bed, and gently wrapped it with a warm blanket. She left the room and he asked Krishna with the question, what happened and what she has in mind. In her response, she confessed that she thought about Lily, who got into the hands of the slave trade. The girl wondered if he was familiar with these people, but the hero only shook his head, denying the acquaintance. They moved almost without delay, and he remained treatment. Remembering the coin, he noted that the elfish girl now got the status of a heroine. Departing, they thought that if she still was not destined to survive, then at least this story can bring a certain benefit. Krishna assured that she was convinced of the presence of trade in children in this area, because before the beginning of this mission, she conducted her own investigation. Thanos wondered if it really made her press on the trigger. The girl only asked him quietly. She confessed that her excessive emotionality is probably the only defect. The hero wondered if she had too many shortcomings. But Christian, with a smile, assured that she had very little weaknesses, that she has already untangled many of the most confused things. He said that the Lady of Steel embodies the perfect model of the royal guard, and became a real hero, and a symbol for all the inhabitants of the kingdom. She said that even having her weaknesses, she would always remain on the guard of justice. These words made it possible to think. Ashtonus asked, would he allow him to ask a question? He nodded. Then the girl specified whether he really possesses protective magic at the master's level. He answered this in a D ability. He does not have this title. However, Ashtonus strongly asked him not to hide her true talents. She enthusiastically asked him to share her view on this question as a true specialist. She added with interest, is there an opportunity to grow a new hand by mastering the art of medical magic? Krishna thought about her own words for a moment. She noted that to restore her hand under the power of the holy healer of incredible skill. She shared how, during the service to protect the private possessions of the aristocracy, he was face to face with Sophia Gell, a mysterious leader of the thief group. She noted that her shot fell into the opponent's hand, causing her a significant injury. She emphasized that when she met Zofia in Islam, there was no trace of any scratch on her hand. She acknowledged that she returned to the image of the referee repeatedly, trying to understand who was still addressed by Zofia. After all, after long thought, she managed to reach only one conclusion. They say who is able to cure such terrible wounds should certainly be an extremely known personality. Xenos' heart fades in anticipation. It was believed that Krishna, the deputy commander of the Imperial Guard, has exceptional insight. She stated that the next day she would start her own investigation. She said with confidence that the one who sows enmity, is in dismal of the hearts of the disadvantaged and gives rise to evil, will surely get into her tenet. The hero stopped at her words, thinking about the roots of evil. Why is she so categorically treating poor families? The girl pushed the mug sideways and replied that it was a long story to tell now. He shared the memories of her mother, an extremely responsive woman who always empathized with someone else's pain. Seeing the disadvantages of the slums of poverty and famine, she tirelessly helped them, bringing food and support. When her inanimate body was brought to her home, her relatives were trying to remove the wedding ring from her. The girl said that her mother saved many of the needy from starvation. However, when trouble happened, no one came to her help. It was this painful experience that taught the girl to laugh through tears from the same day. He assured that she would become a perfect heroine, who would save the wilds, clearing them from villains, so that such tragedies would never happen again. Krishna shared that since then she was called a woman made of steel. Her face resembled a cold, fixed iron mask. On farewell, the girl promised to come to the house again in the evening. Asked, she said that she got a little confused on the road. She realizes that someone cared about her. Leo reassured him. They say, there is no point in worrying, because nothing to change. He agreed with Leo without hesitation. The wound on Zulif's hand was carefully treated, preventing it from being more attentive next time, because life cannot be returned. She apologized and, suddenly remembering something, reported that she should tell him something important. Xenos asked what the language was about. She said that her subordinate reported, Lady from Steel already knows about the appearance of the referee. The hero stopped for a moment, breathing on full breaths. The girl asked what he meant, talking about another breath. Zofia exchanged with her girlfriend surprised views. Krishna brought a gun to her rival and was cold. What are the real causes of her appearance here? The girl wondered how this Iron Lady was here. He challenged everyone with enthusiasm, stating that they were wrong. Camille, smiling ironically, noted that his behavior reminded her of a man who was caught on betrayal. The girls, without hiding the curiosity, asked if he could explain everything. The deputy general appealed to her to visit the hospital to find out if there is a threat of destruction. Sophia was in surprise. Why not just remove the cause of danger? However, the deputy insisted on a thorough examination of the hospital, which launched a dispute between them about the feasibility of such a decision. Sophia, trying to understand why it is impossible to solve the problem easier, but before the final answer, she asked for permission to ask another question. What happened to her hand? She noted that the arm had already healed, and wondered if it was the arbiter who contributed to the recovery. Sophia was surprised to ask that it could be bad here. She exclaimed with indignation that he had saved the wounded and insisted, let someone finally explain why it was considered wrong. The British spoke worried about the authority of the referee. They were disturbed by a possible outbreak of disorder among the poorest, which could jeopardize the peace and safety of the city's residents. Meanwhile, the leader was interrogated by lizards. Sophia advised her to look more closely at the environment, because insidious people happen not only among the poor. She wondered if the chairman was aware that the security service was investigating the children's trade. He wondered if she realized who was actually involved in the case and mentioned the influence of the aristocracy. She froze from surprise. She exclaimed with indignation that it was a complete delusion, convincing that the underground market of the slave trade was inevitably hidden in the deaf nouns. In response, Sophia calmly noted that no aristocrat would allow her to reveal her secret. She wondered if a person could really be considered innocent only because they were not caught. She also noted that due to the circumstances of the children had to temporarily settle in a special room outside the city. She noted that she was mistaken in her judgments about the judge. This man did not pay attention to the status, appearance, or past actions of people. He just reached out to help anyone who happened to him in the way, saving his life without any prejudice. He exclaimed that, unlike her, he does not put a sign of equality between poverty and crime. But her idea of justice is distorted. Her words remained unanswered, so she politely appealed to Sinos to leave. He apologized and promised to intervene because in the end, Sophia was his patient. At this point, a steel lady resolutely intervened in the conversation. The hero sincerely apologized that he had not admitted this before. He frankly reported that it was the role of a judge. Removing, she exclaimed that she never gave it. Everything was real. She explained that she was not guilty of this situation, and sincerely apologized for making her worry. This is unlikely, and most likely its path did not lie in the direction of Islam. Krishna, resetting opposite, noted that he was a complete surprise for him. A meeting with the deputy commander of the Imperial Guard himself. The girl politely apologized for taking care of him. She made a sip of tea and asked with a smile, confessing that hot drinks were her only admiration. The owner jokingly commented that even the Iron Lady has his weaknesses. The girl remembered how rumors came to her ears that he was trading children. But she could not say this confidently, so she decided to find out whether it was true or only empty chats. The missionary agreed. That's really. They make efforts to strengthen the defense, but it is not possible to ensure complete protection of the entire perimeter. You want to get permission to inspect the interior of the estate. Note that the theft system is installed in the most dangerous area. He stared at Galander with special care. He could not make a decision. He looked around this huge estate, studying every detail carefully. Looking into the kitchen, or in the bathroom, or looking out the window outside, he came to the conclusion that the rumors were only a fiction, and his trip was in vain. I wondered how she was doing, and heard in response that everything turned out to be far more protected than she imagined. Surprised by raising her eyebrows, she asked if everything was fine. Krishna, with a calm smile, assured that there were no reasons for excitement. Having apologized, she wondered if she could go to the toilet. The Lord kindly replied that, of course, it could take advantage of it. When she left the room, an unexpected thought was born in her soul. All this seemed extremely strange. Looking back on the guards, she whispered, "This cannot happen." She wondered that she was forced to give her magical gun at the entrance, and now she was concerned about the idea that in the event of danger, she would remain defenseless and without any weapon. After passing the guards, she stepped into the well and looked into her dark depth. She noted that the well was completely dry, and at its bottom there was a ladder that was heading to the dark. The girl did not hesitate to move down, descending the step behind the step. She carefully descended to the very bottom, where the dark and mysterious corridor stretched. Her minds have been squeezed. Someone needs help somewhere, and she must immediately check what happened. Imagine her friend. A dark cage appears in front of her eyes, where children with their eyes are tight, like a shadow that lost the road. The baby wondered who she really was. He did not hide. In his soul he settled fear. The girl gently assured everyone that there is no reason to worry, nothing evil with them will happen, and on the contrary, everything will be good. The owner noted that, as expected, the magical weapon of the Imperial Guard is really unique. It is only necessary to show it, and these frightening souls are already trembling with fear. He had an alarming anticipation. He had to spend a little time, and something horrible would happen. However, even in the worst ideas, he could not predict what had happened. Before his eyes lay a wounded Krishna. Lord was outraged that such persons like her are not suitable for aristocracy habits. He pulled the poor from their pathetic weekdays, like a real gentleman of this place. Here he was convinced of his nobility. Unlike the obedient herd, he allowed himself all that he pleased. She apologized to her mother for failing to become a heroine. The owner of a thunderous voice reproached her in patronage, emphasizing, hierarchy is justice, and for such actions will have to pay for his life. Suddenly, an alarming warning sounded in the crowd. The bandits are approaching. Galunder swept the real stun. Sophia asked if he wanted to know the true cause of their survival. The owner looked around in a confusion, without clasping what was happening. He was aware of how unfairly it was, because the owner always found a way to violently confirm the most pessimistic predictions. He accepted the challenge without hesitation and had to be alert, because everything could be delayed for a long time. Their voices of the moon were insulting words, but the characters urged not to take it close to the heart, calling him an inept healer. Sophia quietly noted that she only acts as a conductor. Among them, the wounded Krishna cast his gaze in their direction. She exclaimed loudly up, wondering if anyone was above. Sophia replied that her boys just ran to play in the yard, so she would have to wait a little. The holy husband confirmed that these are really lizards. Just those who are about numerous rumors among people, talking about their attacks and robbery. He warned them not to dare to intimidate him, calling an idiot, because as the former street robbery, they could deal with criminals without hesitation. He boldly instructed the gun on Xenos, and, threateningly exclaiming, ordered to get up, promising that he would remove them from the room one by one. Krishna warned him to be particularly careful, because the magic gun without a limiter poses an extreme danger. He exclaimed, calling them the unspeakable ones, because they forgot that they are now on the possession of a noble family, and therefore should know their place. But suddenly the hero realized, the pain that swept it was really extremely strong. The gentleman could not hide his surprise. His reflections on how they decided on this were intertwined with the dynamics of the battle. He skillfully released a volley of both magical pistols, without moving. Suddenly the hero's hand stretched out of the smoke clubs. Lunko laughed at the promise to study beggars. He looked at Xenos. Krishna turned to him. Coming out of smoke clubs, he comes straight before the Lord. The gun escaped from the hands of a frightened man, fell on the floor. The hero strictly wondered why he smoked at random, like a madman, and reminded him of thinking about his own conscience. He lifted the gun. Lord immediately stated that it was his property. Xenos brought the muzzle to his temple. The man asked what was happening and what he was doing. The doctor noted that when you decide to open fire on others, it is worth remembering that the answer can arrive at any moment. He reminded the man not to forget this, and almost squeezed the trigger. He kneeled down, pleading, so that he was not touched. Finally it came to him that he had noble robbers before him, and he agreed to thank them for everything. On this hero with cold confidence stated that he has nothing to do with robbers. Lord wondered what he actually wanted. He was told that he was bitterly bitter from how he, without thinking for a moment, released his magic gun against him. He exclaimed in a full voice that he understood everything, and began to ask for a mercy, critical pleading. But the Hay remained adamant. The owner was interested in the cause of such stubbornness. Then the hero looked at Krishna, and insisted that the man ask before her. The founder acknowledged his mistake, acknowledging that at that time the emotions took a mountain over him. In the end, he only shot, and then sincerely apologized for his act. And yet he did not leave the question, will it be enough to apologize? The hero strongly stated that there would be no forgiveness. The Lord shouted with indignation, demanding explanations. What made them refuse? Xenos wondered if the interlocutor really believed that the apology has already been said. He said that he is not a Christian near his girlfriend at all. He just wants to be a support for her. Then he asked thoughtfully, what really affected him? The characters strongly stated that they should first ask one extremely important person for them. Amazed by the arrogant attempt of a man to intimidate him and touch his more favorable conditions, the hero realized, he does not even suspect how serious everything is. The hero was already ready to study the Zukvals, when the Lord suddenly stopped him, asking him to give a little time. He is able to shout so much that he will immediately understand what it is in the patient's place. A shot was fired. The man exclaimed from surprise, trying to find out what was happening, and within a moment his cry turned into a groaning pain. The blow hit the stomach, and the man flew back, crashing into the wall. A cry broke out of his mouth. The man fainted and fell to the ground. Krishna wondered if he had eliminated the hay. He assured that he activated the restrictor, so Galinder eventually remained alive. He stressed that he did not consider himself the right to judge the abomination. Krishna noted that it was too late to decide something, and advised to transfer the case to the headquarters of the Imperial Guard. The hero wondered if he was part of the guard. She was injured not only by the left hand and sides. It seems that the internal organs were also affected. The girl lay on the ground. The hay thought, did it seem to be the end? The woman was amazed and could not hide her astonishment. It seemed that it did not fit into the idea of an Iron Lady. He anticipates that as soon as she is born, her eyes will be filled with tears. She asks again, not fully realizing what is happening around. I started treatment, and Krishna surprised it. She explained that she had a rupture of the blood vessels and soft tissues, has bone fractures and areas of dead flesh. Therefore, it is necessary to stop the bleeding and cure these severe injuries. She turned to him, but he noticed that her presence prevents him from focusing, so he politely asked her to remain silent for a short time. She looked at him and said with a smile that she was a real savior. Smiling, he waved. They say it is only a trifle. He claims that he is only a simple healer of dark magic that grew up in depths. Krishna rose, and casting her eyes on his unharmed side, she realized that she could not believe what she saw. She emphasized that this testifies to the extraordinary power of his medical magic. Another character confirmed that it is. She did not hide her surprise. It is rare when you can meet a magician capable of both protective and healing charms at the same time. This is really something special. But she remained calm and assured that there was nothing surprising. Sophia nodded as a sign of consent, noting that she was convinced of it. Her words were immediately supported by Krishna. Honoredly leaning, he apologized. Carol sincerely confessed in her own faults, noting that she was far from the image of a perfect heroine. Her words were forced to immerse themselves in reflection. It is impossible to become a perfect hero without feeling fear or reproach. Those who defend their own truth inevitably receive scars and stuff bruises along the way. They said that there are healers for such situations. Krishna returned to him and noted that he did not like to speak for others. He stressed that, despite the heavy wounds obtained in a fierce fight, she remained a real heroine for them. The girl wondered to whom it was intended. She wondered how the aunt felt. The girl wanted to find out if her aunt was able to overcome her difficulties. Pino gently touched her shoulder and noted that it was she who dared to take the first step. She shared how, despite the hidden from all the truth, she dared to oppose the nobility. After learning about the baby who so needed saving, she decided to help them without hesitation. Only she knew one who really was a real character. She suddenly started to stutter. It looked even funny. She shouted at the babies, reassuring, quite a little, and she will certainly help them get out. She noted that her mother probably behaved in a similar way. It always seemed that her mother was only an unhappy victim, but it was worth giving her food in the wilds, as a true light of joy flashed out of her eyes. He nodded, adding that Krishna has already become an idol for the baby, and no one would mind. She recognized that she has been constantly seeking the ideal since childhood. She said that her mother was distinguished by clumsiness, brightness, lightness, and constant forgetfulness. But it was this that, at first glance, that made her mother almost perfect. And among all this, it always has something truly unique. Without any hesitation, she considered her mother a true heroine. Sophia, with anxiety in his voice, insisted that the hero immediately leaves this place. He noted that from now on, everything in the hands of Krishna, and he promised to visit later to pay for treatment. But the girl stopped him and asked to stay for a moment. Why did they decide to come to her? Sinos thought for a few seconds, hesitating a little. She jokingly said that she promised to pay for the night, and if she had died, then who would return her debt? He ordered her to give exactly the amount she guilty, and promised to include these funds in her medical expenses. Krishna thought for a moment, and then laughed from her heart. Her loud laughter was swept around the moon, while Zeno watched this unexpected reaction with surprise. When she wondered what he cheered on her, tears flashed in the eyes of the girl with laughter. She shared that on the day when her mother did not become, laughter left her forever. Anger embarrassed and overflowing, she has lost even the slightest ability to smile. She was asked how she finds the strength to smile if she still has not been punished at least one criminal. Krishnas noted in response, that is why she smiles for the first time in her life. She acknowledged that it was impossible to deny. Her laughter really echoed with a light, spooky tinge. Sophia agreed, noting that he may even be forced to shudder. She replied that you would not do anything. She did not laugh for so long that she had forgotten how it was. She admitted that the inability to laugh is only one of its imperfections. At this time, Astina's team was on the road. One of the boys noted that they eventually got a real dead end. He warned everyone not to check the limits of his patience. Some of the team joked that a bottle of wine would be right now. The other replied that they would cope with the affairs immediately and already celebrate in the city properly. Another detachment participant warmly supported this idea. Andres noticed whether other attention was paid to the expression of the surprise of that girl from the tavern when she learned that they belonged to the Golden Phoenix. Huma asked who was considered the leader. The man replied that the reward would get to the one who was the first to go forward. Ashton also urged not to behave as grumpy trading in the market, and to stop in vain disputes, to forget about simple people, because now even the most exquisite ladies will dream of them. Initially, they will reach the peaks among mercenaries, and in the future, after their careers, they will enter the circle of aristocracy. The foxes were waiting for them, which Asen was offered to look. I was told that they would turn into something extraordinary, a grillis. Their fur is particularly soft because of numerous problems, and children's skins are even more valuable due to their tenderness. Extracting the sword from the vagina, he warned the boys to be alert, and added that Lord Fennel would remain satisfied. He noticed how rust was already on his sword. I shouted to Gale, ordering her to take advantage of protective magic. She immediately made it clear that she heard everything and was ready to act. Put the leaf on the ground and start reading the spell. At this point, Aston, without hesitation, rushed forward to suddenly attack the enemy. His blade almost touched the hole, but the beast cleverly turned, avoiding the blow. Some parts of his armor and clothing were mutilated from unbearable heat. Suddenly, his ear pierced a loud cry. Looking back, he saw a fiery lizard clicks with jaws and is in mind. He cried away from acute pain, unable to restrain the cry. Aston stood confused, not realizing what had happened. One of the foxes splashed a giant fiery ball from his mouth, and only miraculously he managed to evade her. Andres was ordered to use a combat spell, and he assured that he was already calling for his strength. He called Andres, ordered not to stop, and wondered what he was doing. In response, Andres advised a little more. He called to Gale, trying to find out if he had imposed a protective spell. In response, Gale assured that he did everything properly, although he could not hurt what was happening. The detachment leader reacted irritated to his words. The fox was constantly biting into support, and he gradually began to lose consciousness, and he could not get rid of what was going around. The sound of Andres and interested where the offensive magic went. He noted that in order to prevent damage to their skin, you need to adjust the magical spells more carefully, which requires a little more time. Aston was stress. It was literally hung in the air, felt every cell. As they retreated, he became angry and began to shout his reproaches to his team, accusing them of powerlessly, even before these pathetic pelvis creatures of B+. Andres exclaimed that this man was fighting inhuman methods. They say that it was such a dance, a real ballet halagred. He added that they were well studied. Could it really be the hateful Xenos that appeared here? All this happened because it was a task at one of the 7 mighty clans, and he simply could not afford a single miss. A few days passed, and the team returned to their familiar playground. Ashton, with sadness, realized how much precious time it took in vain. Ask Amin for help, she answered restrained. It is not necessary to count on a lot. She shared that she was mostly healer in the Royal Harbor, and has skills sufficient for adventure. She wondered with surprise why the Golden Phoenix, who could overcome even the mighty beast of Class A, decided to turn to such an average healer as she. And I replied, here too the whirlpool of events does not subside. I carefully wondered at the girl, whether everything was fine with Yum. She assured that he remained alive, but she would no longer dare to travel. She thought of picking up the skin and returning home immediately. In the end, he doubted whether Huma was really worth the honorary title of Golden Phoenix. He asked Andres this time not to delay using magic. The young man assured that he understood everything and was already completely ready. He gave him Gilea, and wondered if he was really reflected from alcohol today. Gileo confidently shook his head, convincing that he was keeping the situation under control. The foxes were rising to them as if the wind drove them forward. The boxes flashed, throwing out the tongues of the flames, which rapidly covered everything around. Aston cried Gale to hide, but he assured him not to worry and trusted him. The team gathered, fully tuned to the future battle. The manager believed that now only the number of Augustals should be reduced systematically. Suddenly, Andres rejected back, as if he had been an incredible attack. I turned to him and asked, "What happened?" He wondered if he was still holding on, and noticed that without immediate medical care, Andres was a serious threat. The team leader looked confused. He understood that it would be almost impossible to overcome this monster on its own. His forces were exhausted, and his body was so weakened that the only hope was the devastating magic of Andres. Even if they continued to try hard here, in the end, they would only in vain spend their strength, and not manage to master the magic of Andres. His hands trembled when he retreated back. He fussily searched the way out without holding back his voice and persistently exclaiming the question, "What's going on?" He loudly stated that this time he was not going to listen to the next excuse go about the bad form. In response, Gu only shrugged, confessing that he did not understand what was happening to him. She reported that the barrier of protection was already working. He stressed that if it weren't for this man would have died on the spot. Aston cuddled to her that he would not happen if he really suffered serious injuries, and immediately ordered his treatment to take care of his treatment. To which the girl replied that without words, everything was clear. She stressed that first the formula should be made and the spell, taking into account the nature of the injury. After first aid, the guy should be transported to the healing center immediately using restorative spells. Aston froze from surprise. It is quite little time, so it must cure it right now without a moment. The woman asked what it was. He interrupted the conversation with surprise. I realized that these participants did not skate from the moment they parted with that guy. He wondered if he was really a joke, and then told in detail why he could not put up with it. What was difficult to imagine made him ask if such a person really existed. To which the team captain immediately answered. It seemed that he subtly emphasized, a simple person is unlikely to be so capable. One thing is undoubtedly, the time allotted for the mission was relentlessly melted. A man with a bitter smile reproached Aston for naivety, they say. In vain he relied on him. He would no longer see him here. In response, Aston hastily stopped him, asking to give a little more time. I asked to meet with Lord Fennel, but the man replied that the celebration of the lady's birthday had already ended. He asked interested in what purpose we came to. Lord Fennel was burned not only because of the failure. His heart also looked at the anger that this man did not allow defeat at all. Even a simple call the day before could save from shame to appear on a holiday to a lady with empty hands. He convinced that everything is different. They just went fine. They have almost triumphed over Firefox. The man wondered what his interlocutor meant. The captain of the team emphasized that among them the traitor was hiding, and they have almost managed to find him. How suddenly the Hadrus suddenly left them. The man asked once again the name of the hero, noting that he sounded strange. He has never met such a name among the soldiers of Golden Phoenix. In his opinion, this was justified, because in official papers and documents the names of the inhabitants did not indicate, so they remained outside the group. However, he later realized that it was a mistake and recognized it. He reported that the shooter, who was called Huma, was a traitor. At that moment, Gale intervened in the conversation, interested in what the essence of betrayal was. Ashton was angry that this man is a pathetic, worthless one. In response, he just sighed and said that he was unpleasant to hear that. The man said that he became aware. 2 members of their team were seriously injured and now found themselves on a hospital bed. After that, he thoughtfully asked what they see the chances of the group, given that now only half of people remained in the system. One of the team members noted that this is not a problem, because soon they will be able to find a decent replacement. Therefore, he asked to give him another opportunity. The man promised to report Lord Fennel, and Ashton sincerely thanked him for it. He wondered what actions the man was going to do after what he said. Ashton just reassured him, they say, you should not worry. In addition, he added, their team has another slave. He confidently argued that he would surely be happy with his return, and may even let tears from joy when he finds himself here again. The Hay was really lucky that he came for him. I thought that hiking to the raids, as well as the performance of guild tasks, took a long time. It is necessary to wander for a long time, burdened equipment, food and all sorts of supplies, which significantly takes strength and spends hours. It is for this reason that the team began to recruit people from the social lower classes. They are easy to manipulate, and they are suitable for use until they remain useful. Zeno suddenly felt that he was still alien and has no place in the world. He asked the hero to question his case, to which he indifferently answered that he did not do anything special. He asked if it would be a company during a raid. Sinos did not hide his surprise. He replied that he heard, people are allegedly not inherent in adventurous inclinations. However, the team leader usually ignored similar conventions. The main people were the persistence and abilities of man. He wondered if this person had any skills. The hero noted that he had mastered the art of medical magic a little. Justin noticed that in their group there was a lacking healer, so he decided to offer his services and join the team. Last thought that took possession of Aston's consciousness. He replied that he should not worry about it. In addition, he said the idea of returning to that viper does not care about him. He noted that he was convinced that there is no living among the living. The leader of the group denied this. It is possible that he is still alive. In addition, he remembered. He gave a golden coin to Farewell so that he could survive a little longer. He noted that this town is quite large and asked how they were going to organize searches. He then asked the question and immediately remembered that he had one interesting idea. He noted that in the depths of the slum there is a ruthless struggle between the three main clans of Inhumans. It seems that these are lizards, werewolves, and orcs. He turned to the lizard again, asking if he could spend them in his leader, and added that he would like to discuss a favorable offer. Lamshir asked who they were and where they came from. In response, the leader proudly stated that he headed the gold-level squad and ordered everyone to follow him. Sophia noted that his title sounds too twisted and advised to move immediately to the substance. Then the group leader asked to help find a man named Xenos, who first appeared in the slum about 2 months ago. He shouted loudly, asking if Xenos was familiar to her. The girl neglected that she was tired and added that she did not want to have anything to do with the fools. Browsing with anger, he snatched the sword and addressed her with a fury. "Who do you consider me?" She asked if he understood who was talking to. Having restored calm, he only quit that he was in vain to waste his minutes, and without hesitation, quickly disappeared from sight. When they moved away, the girl warned them. If they dare at least a little damage to the pier, they will not be avoided. The partner, as a cry, exclaimed that he did not understand anything. He hastened to reassure. There is no reason to worry, because we still have 2 other teams. Once in the lens, she stated that the local community was a real trap that expelled Mr. Xenos. In her opinion, they would be more fate, to die, and become a dang flight in a new life. She learned with surprise that the girl was also familiar with Xenosum. In response, and calmly noted that the doctor is completely indifferent to the fate of the flies of dung, so they should get out of here as soon as possible. Hearing this, the group's leader was annoyed with a matter of where she had such boldness. Once in a crowd of angry werewolves, he asked if he was going to rush forward. With a fierce intonation, he proclaimed, "What is happening here?" In response, Gao shrugged helplessly, they say, and he did not understand anything. Meanwhile, the detachment commander recalled that they must see the hero. Without him. In addition, the orcs remain ahead, and their path leads to them. They came across a Leo who wondered if they really kicked Xenos and what they needed from him now. Surprisingly and delight were flashed in their eyes. What a touching picture. Carol has noted that they should touch the doctor, and the Eagle clan would interfere with this case. Aston was politely asked not to disturb the silence. He glanced at the audience with surprise, but he agreed restrained, thanking for the remarks. He added that he is usually wearing a dorsal corset. Looking at the behavior of all 3 groups, it could have made the impression that they admire Xenos. However, it was not true. Suddenly, an unexpected thought was settled. He explained that it was a completely different person, just by chance. Her name was completely coinciding with the name of a well-known influential figure. Gale wondered about the possible exclusion from the warehouse, so the leader hastened to dispel her doubts. This is only an unfortunate accident. Such misunderstandings happen quite often. The suspicion was that the last one who could have influence was Xenos. He was convinced that he would not believe that the one he always despised could be respectful of all influential leaders of the criminal world. Be that as it may, he insisted, this person will certainly find. The hero turned to Lily, and she responded, confessing that he could not remember the road. Zeno noted that the huts are full of confused paths and many narrow aisles. Now look at how a smile blossoms on the face. He seemed to finally find what he was looking for, and now shouted a name full of hope. Seeing them, he was genuinely surprised. The detachment leader was happy to declare everyone that Xenos is still alive. The doctor, referring to urgent responsibilities, said goodbye to everyone. However, others did not want to let him go and were persistently asked to stay, urging to stop. The hero went to his search. When asked about the reason for such perseverance, a man, without hiding joy, explained that he has finally returned to the ranks of the Golden Phoenix team. In his eyes, a genuine surprise flashed at once on his face. With a sarcastic smile, he assured that he would remain. But Aston, barely recovering, did not stop there and added, "In the end, he will definitely go, because such chances do not fall out daily." He sharply snatched the dialogue with a loud exclamation. If he did not know it, if the hero really decided to stay, the man would confirm it. The leader of the group asked about the reason that Xenos in response was only ironically asked, "Why not stay?" He was outraged, pointing out that the conditions are unfair, wages are ridiculous, no bonuses or benefits, and in similar situations people usually give up such a proposal. He exclaimed that everything is not true, because he invites him sincerely. In response, the hero said that he may ever take the time and join them in the raid at least once. If he were offered a decent reward, he could well get on it. One of the participants suddenly said, full of surprise, "Renault has announced that his services are no longer free. He requires 1 million for one healing, and if a protective magic or strengthening of abilities is needed, cook 3 times a larger amount." He was adamant. No discussions or discounts. He shouted caply, demanding to find out who he issues himself here. He just smiled bitterly and replied that he was nowhere in this place. The hero congratulated not just a random orc. He also wondered if everything was fine with his feet. The orc smiled at this and assured that, thanks to the help of the hero, all is well with them. He mentioned that the damage had disappeared in his eyes, as if it were not, and this was over. Sinos gave one instruction to monitor your weight. The orca was called the Grid. He noted that their meeting could happen there, and the next time they would expect a doctor. Not forgetting to thank, he expressed gratitude. Ashton was stunned. He noted that Xenos is actually the same Xenos that was discussed earlier. They carefully monitored his interaction with representatives of different races of Inhuman. Ashton suddenly realized it was his intervention that saved the Golden Phoenix from danger. Shad recalled that Ashton was the initiator of the exile. After that, he wondered what further intentions of Ashton. This question was a great deal, and raising his voice, he ordered Shouty to silence, emphasizing that the rest had fully supported his decision. Lily noted that these men are 2 hosts. The leader of the company was exclaiming, asking for which of the uncle she has it. They announced their intention to go. They asked and persistently exclaimed whether he could go without saying a word. Does he really not want to return to them? Then he confessed that he really does not want it. He is comfortable, and comfortable here. Someone suddenly exclaimed from the company, reminding that it was he who once took him under his roof and gave shelter. Seeing this, neither ceased to apologize. He noted that it is worth considering his position, because, after all, it is in his home that they are so often gathered for lunch. When he finally left, he noted that the time had long passed, and only he reached out, trying to get it, forbids to ignore their presence. The gang head asks whether he is pleased with the crowd, and in passing states that he will inevitably become an aristocrat in the future. In response, Aston rapidly grabs a sword from the vagina. The top set a sight at Xenos, but suddenly stopped someone's shout. He was ordered to get up. Aston, from the fabulous liquid of his gun, splashed something incredible. With a terrible roar, he crashed into the wall of the building. The girl immediately noted his desperation. How can it boldly attack her in her eyes? It was Krishna. She strongly stated that the unit of the Imperial Guard would not allow him to avoid punishment. Some of the crowd suddenly sounded, not hiding surprise. Sinos cast a careful look and asked why she appeared in this place. The role confessed that she was going to visit him, but accidentally cut her finger in this place. He advised her to just lick the scratch, they say, so faster heal. Chiron, amazed by her own determination to go for it for the sake of him, promised to cover all the costs of treatment on her own. But instead of gratitude, she received rude words from him. Justin thoughtfully tried to remember why Krishna's name seemed to him. Suddenly, this girl once shed light on a few high-profile affairs and, according to rumors, became the youngest in history, the deputy of the division commander of the Imperial Guard. It was unclear how she was able to find a common language with Hay. The hero wondered who he really is and what he lies behind. The girl reported that she accompanied him to the police department for attempting the attack. Ashton was stunned. Ashton was not going to go on the offensive, but the circumstances provoked by Zeno made him cross the line. The young man decides to find out what exactly is asked by asking the appropriate question. Meanwhile, the leader of the detachment disappeared from the field of view, leaving only the whole of Krishnas, who desperately called him by name. It was increasingly difficult to run, the breath was stuck, and there was a lack of air in the chest. Hitting around the corner, he confidently thought that Hay would not be able to pass by him without paying attention. Sophia tried the jam and immediately noted its incredible taste. Linda Gordo announced that she had cooked it from apples. Levi, smiling, said that he also had to put his hands in this case. She stressed that he only helped raise the pot and did all the real work on his own. Levi, however, disagreed, reminding that she brought apples and immediately suggested adding sugar with salt. The warrior and Vinchel promised not to disclose their secret. Sophia noticed that they got the stage when the leader of the orcs, along with the mighty werewolves, were engaged in joint preparation of jam. For a long time, she decided to find out what was the matter, and asked what was happening. Levi noted that Sophia showed herself in a clash with that aristocrat, so he did not interfere with lying. Lingo noted that she began to understand their desire to act together, so they look much more spectacular. The girl proudly announced that, despite all the obstacles, she's still ahead of everyone in the struggle for ascent. Ling was inflamed with anger, and Levi noted dryly that, despite the annoyance of the situation, nothing will work here. At this point, he appeared. He said he had heard everything from the beginning. The hero turned to Lily, asking for a few more such products if she had the necessary materials. The girl only smiled mysteriously and was ready to help. The windows were grabbed and generously availed the bread with a thick jam. She convincingly assured that everything is completely different. The taste is really incredible. The girls did not restrain the hobbies, Sophia exclaimed, so that he did not pronounce such words, even if they have a grain of truth, because in the end it can relax their vigilance. Lingo was glowing with joy, confessing that she was experiencing true happiness. Levi noted that it was only the beginning, the first day, and Sophia barely held back tears. Kamal laughed and joked that they had a flat game for now. Sophia turned to Xenos, sharing her anxiety. She was recently visited by strangers and just kicked it out of the team. The guy clarified whether it was Aston. Unfortunately, they could not find it. Ring admitted that she also failed to find him. Even an extremely acute wolf smell was not useful. Levi picked up that he could not lure this cunning to the Orchik traps. He asked if the man returned to his area. Sophia confessed that she sincerely hopes for it. The leader of the werewolf warned, if he loses power over himself, the troubles will not be avoided. Levy only silently confirmed this without expressing objections. He again wondered that he was hidden at the very bottom of his slums. Neil emphasized that it was an underground guild. The hero asked if this is true, and Sophia explained. In simplest words, it is a forbidden organization. He noted that in the case of too difficult tasks, which they cannot cope with themselves, usually turn to them. Ordinary guilds operate in accordance with the state-approved rules on the execution of orders and payment system. To become part of this system, you need to successfully take the qualification exam. The girls assumed that this may concern drug trafficking, murder, or preparation of some insidious revenge. There were also rumors that an underground guild was involved in the sale of children, which one of the aristocrats has. The girl flashed on the girl's face. She was careful that she would happen if that Burkatoon decides to force an underground guild into something evil. Zeno, hearing it, said, whether she called it a noisy uncle, he replied that he had no accurate information, but he heard that underground guild services were not cheap. Camilla noted that if they deliberately went into the porch in search of Zeno, therefore, their situation is already critical. It was a little comforted by Lily, Sophia thought, and the girl asked worriedly whether she was all right. One of them recalled that she came across a rumor. A person who recently fulfilled the order not for money, but only under specific conditions, appeared in the underground guild. The voice spread as if he called himself a leader. It was noted that the client got here precisely because he was missing money to pay for order and such a delicacy. But the owner did not leave and hurried to assure, they accept not only cash. He called himself a conductor and asked what the client had. Could the customer share his motivation? He explained that most participants in the underground guild are not interested in the reasons, the main thing for them to pay. However, it is really important to him. The guide noted that the motives here are rather confusing and dictated by selfishness. It is unlikely that this revenge is more likely ordinary insult. He stated that he would gladly agree because he only needs such an occasion, and he will gladly help. His palms were kept a mysterious black stone. He assured that he was only exploring the artifact and decided that right now the best time to experience its properties. Don't worry, the customer order will certainly be fulfilled. The conductor promised that he would certainly remember his name. Lily paid attention how his head dropped and wondered in Zeno if he was going to fall asleep. He apologized and reported that he was about to go to bed soon. The girl wondered if she wanted black tea and could fall asleep after such a drink. The guy reassured her, saying that everything was fine, and asked to bring tea. I really poured tea, and Zenos immediately took a cup. Earl wondered how things were going on. He, with a smile, assured that he had everything as usual, and thanked her sincerely. Suddenly, she carefully put her hand on his head, which surprised him. She frankly confessed that in those nights when the dream avoided her, he often gently held her hand on her hair. On this, Hero gratefully said that now you have become a support me. So, today I will fall asleep with a light heart. Lily quietly plunges into a dream, barely touching the pillows. Tasting the tea, Neela asked the doctor if he woke up. Is she here? The question came. In response, the man said that Lily had prepared 3 cups of tea in advance, and it was difficult for him to give up such a manifestation of attention. Ray just smiled and noted that it was really in her style. Lily always worried about everyone around. He wondered if his dream was really a reality, because thoughts returned him to the last team again and again. He drew attention to her question whether his person was really disturbing her thoughts. Camilla, a little embarrassed, assured that it was not true. She just gotten to talk, because at night it is enough to do nothing. Hearing this, he just smiled warmly. He swears that he no longer reflects on his past in that part. Opening the rehabilitation center, he plunged so deeply that even the thoughts of Aston did not visit him. Simila confessed that she finally remembered how he really treated her, and now it was painful to realize that she had once raised her hand. At the same time, she emphasized that she seeks sincerity in relationships with Frank. She emphasized that human life is a moment, so it is worth having time to thank those who deserve it until there is such an opportunity. Having studied his own palm closely, he acknowledged that there is probably the grain of truth in her words. She shared that she had to hear about his medicinal magic in the same place, and then asked how far he had advanced in his exercises. He shared that he spent the first years of life in a local orphan's shelter, but only now realized what horrors the reality was then, carrying out everything that could bring at least some penny. He said that he opposed such actions, so after the fighting he only hid the dead, not assignment to himself. And for that, he had repeatedly got on nuts. Camille noted that an abandoned corpse could cause an outbreak of disease, so his actions were justified. In response, he confessed that he had not even thought about it earlier. Renaud confessed that despite all his efforts, they were almost always found. Somehow, he slept simple, even a somewhat baby idea. In those days, he did not understand it, but daily fought daily to revive himself from the inside. The knowledgeable story was reported, as examined by the skin structure, the location of the muscles, the scheme of passing the blood vessels with their branching, as well as the location of the internal organs. In those days, he lacked knowledge of anatomy. He was not aware of what he needed, why it was working at all, or how it works, but did not dare to take up training. Discard endless reflections, stop building, or simply observed. Neil engulfed real surprise. She was convinced that in depths of slums can only live, and a variety of creatures are killed. Pedro confessed that at first his occupation seemed in vain, but he was training the day by day, year after his body, until his body finally absorbed white light. It was at that moment that he felt a response in himself, and for the first time believed that he could from now on. The day he was desperate to resurrected, a stranger approached him and hit him sharply on his head. With a look full of rage, he grabbed the hero by his clothes and lifted him with force. Why can't this guy use this power about the dead? After all, its purpose is to help alive. He never revealed the secrets of his own name, and he lived in ignorance, knowing only the harsh reality of the slurs, until fate gave him the opportunity to see the wide world. All this thanks to one person. They said that this man was a true authority, although his appearance caused distrust. He remembered how the mentor repeatedly repeated his favorite phrases, particularly etched in the memory of his words. The healers of the 3rd level simply heal wounds. The 2nd, they return to people health. But true masters, those who are able to heal the world. Emile noted that this process is significantly different from the magic of the resurrection. At the same time, in her era there was a sorcery to create golem, artificial creatures similar to the living. She noted that it was about 3 centuries ago, when the demonic lord was still among the living. Once upon a time, homuncles were generated by magical stone, woven from sulfur, carbon, and a number of other components. Now, This mysterious power of darkness has almost completely disappeared from the memory of people, becoming a forgotten legacy of past eras, that they were unfamiliar with both pain and fear, and a goal which humbly obeys every order, becomes an extremely inconvenient and dangerous enemy. Minos wondered in Fia what she did 3 centuries ago. Fia only smiled slightly and said that it was so long ago that the details had long been erased from her memory. Suddenly, the silence interrupted the incomprehensible roar. The hero wondered in surprise that it could have been. Camilla, thinking thoughtfully to the ceiling, suggested that the source of the noise somewhere deep inside the slums. Destroy their shelters. Make the zeal in a panic run away, leaving the void and chaos. Xenos watched this spectacle, holding his breath. About the moving pile of stones he spoke it with a golem. Suddenly behind, Bella suddenly emerged and solemnly said that it was a real secret. The hero was scared, and noted that she scared him. However, the curiosity took the mountain, and he wondered what she brought here. The girl confessed shyly. She failed to quench the thirst for knowledge, so she decided to explore everything on her own. He wondered that Lily. The hero replied that she was still sleeping firmly, and even for the better, because if she witnessed it, if he rushed to them and called the doctor, other heads of clans would also be near her, to organize the gathering of all the wounded in one safe place with the girls, who, interestingly, was at the wheel of this tremendous, living creature of creature. On the basis of available information, it was impossible to answer this. However, he was confident in one. Reno stressed that it would cost a considerable amount for him, and he persistently asked everyone else to hold back his promises. The conductor, holding a charming binoculars, studied the golem carefully. He noticed that the power of this creature fully meets expectations, but his movements are still too slow. Unfortunately, he still had to make a lot of effort. The doctor noted that this is enough to accomplish the current task. At the same time, he wondered that Aston was instructed to resist Venzinos, an ancient comrade on the detachment. In his memories fell. Aston picked up a friend in the gloomy wilds, gave him a refuge and patiently demolished his arrogance. He thought about how much he lost the group leader, while Zeno, on the contrary, won a lot, and it seemed unfair. The young man understood that such an open manifestation of his own image looked selfish, but this thought caused him unexplained admiration. To study how people respond and what emotions are raging depending on the circumstances. He emphasized that Aston's order corresponded to his best interests. He wondered. At 9 in the morning, neither the Imperial Guard nor doctors of the Imperial Hospital will not hurry to interfere or rescue someone. These services may simply watch away without being guided by any beliefs or duty. So it became quite clear. It is not necessary to count on external support. He noted that he would witness how everyone who loves him will die in his eyes, one by one. What would Xenos invented to be very brightly to buy in the rays of glory? The hero called on inanimate creatures immediately to pick up the wounded and hurry forward. He warned his loud voice, werewolves have an incredibly sharp sense of smell and easily track the prey on a bloody trail. Xenos did not stay away and exclaimed, the orcs have the strength of 5 soldiers, so they can carry several wounded at the same time. He encouraged them, urging to reveal his true power. Mountains of the wounded rose around the hero. This is a moment when you need to take a step back to open the space for the rise forward. We see how a dazzling glow is flashing around it as a sign of powerful healing of the highest level. He urged everyone who had already assisted, immediately go to a safe place. On their luck, the goal moved very slowly, so, if you do not waste a minute, they have every chance to escape happily. He shouted loudly, wondering how much time was left. Camilla was surprised to address him. Why is he so worried? In response, he assured that he was not going to worry. It was incredibly difficult for her to cope with such a numerous crowd, especially given the fact that people had increased even harder during the night. He loudly stated that no reimbursement should not be hoped. He was worried about Lily, who stayed at home. He did not want the thief to intervene in this story. Ray noted that, despite his complaints, he did not consider this plan unsuccessful. The leader carefully viewed the hero through binoculars and finally said, "This is a real surprise." He quit Xenos to leave everything as he is, and sincerely admitted that he was felt admiration for those who are able to surpass his expectations. His sincere desire to help every wounded was not in doubt. In all actions he remained calm and focused. However, he did not give him a thought. Why did such a gifted young man be forced to live among the poverty? The conductor acknowledged the triumph of the doctor in the first round, but added that their dispute was still ahead of them. The hero called on the leaders of the clans to report to him. Sophia assured that no one was injured. The Hei sincerely thanked everyone for their hard work, confessing that he feels extremely exhausted. He was told that thanks to his efforts, no one was injured. He responded briefly, "Excellent." Overlooking his gaze on the nearest golem, he realized that the last obstacle remained ahead. Cameo guessed what it was. She confirmed his assumption. As previously noted, this creature is the creation of artificial, which is due to the life of magical stone. The hero wondered if this creature would go home on its own, if he was bored by her company, and just leave it here. Camilla shook her head negatively. No, this will not happen, because having obtained the order, he will not stop the goal until she fulfilled him until the end. She stressed that their resources were exhausted 3 centuries ago, when a brutal war between humanity and demons broke out. Dark magic has long been done into oblivion, and any teaching materials have become extraordinary. She only had to be surprised how someone managed to do so. Camilla wondered where they should move. The answer is obvious. You need to find out where to go to meet this monster. The chief reported that they would go on the road with the doctor. He agreed, but carefully noticed whether he could go with them at all, as he had nothing to pay for a premium for risk. Sophia, with poor stubbornness, replied that she would not retreat under any circumstances. She emphasized that it was time to act. He asked Camilla to ask how best to defeat the golem. Camilla proposed to break the magic stone hidden in the inn's golem, because he gives the creature the ability to reconnect. Only she knew the right way to win it. Others did not even know it. For the first time in a lot of time, I got a reward for participation in the battle. It was noted with annoyance. Now that the magic stone is broken, it will no longer be able to sell it. Wasting time, they went on the road. Everyone stared at the golem, trying to come up with how to proceed. They decided to start with a powerful blow without restraining. He noted that there was no reason for fear. The hero activated the skills that increased his agility, strength, and attack. She was covered by a feeling of weightlessness, as if heaviness had been sleeping from her shoulders. Lingo suggested that this magic of all Xenos had this effect. Levi, exciting, emphasizing the advantage of this change, urged not to waste time and moved to the attack. The girls moved forward and aimed at the golem's feet. The giant ghoul was shrilling, swinging with all his strength, preparing to crawl a devastating blow to the girls. The ghoul sharply waved his fist and powerfully rolled Lena. She was thrown back. With a frantic force, she crashed into the wall. The rest faded with fear and shouted. But she almost immediately brought to her feet, not having the slightest scratch. Everyone was talking about, all this is Mr. Xenos' magic. Collizzing vision. He began to slowly remember the forgotten skills and subtleties of battle. There are 2 key rules to keep in mind. First, the proper distance should be maintained in order not to weaken the magical impact. Second, the activation of magic for treatment, attack, and amplification is different, and it is impossible to use them together. That is why it is extremely important to switch from one magic to another during the duel. Zno, with a smile, noted that he almost completed the mastering of this art. He thought that even if he has torn his arms or legs, they would grow from the ground again in stones. However, it takes some time to recover. The characters strongly shouted that both his feet will attack at the same time. He predicted that at first the enemies would seek to disable his feet, and while he was forced to recover, they would quickly guess about the hiding place of magic stone and would soon strike an accurate blow to it. Olivia has sincerely admitted that she could never even imagine the moment they would fight together next to each other. Ling did not hold back the words of thanks to Xenosin, emphasizing his role in this meeting. And Levi felt the true lightness of her heart for the first time. She was entrusted with the most expensive, to protect her friends. The guy was surprised to note how much he was striking. He managed to gain true devotion even in the newly collected team. It was quite dishonest to have such a perfect skill in using the magic of a special structure. So the victory in the second round again reached him. A crying suddenly came from the hustle and bustle. Sophia called the doctor loudly, reporting the bad weather, and showed a gesture on the small, huddled-on stone slabs. There, right on a cold stone, sat a frightened girl. The girl, covered with fear, pressed her arms firmly to her ears. The ghoul came very close, but never dared to touch it. Mia whispered and immediately rushed to the girl. Mia cleverly picked up the baby in her arms and immediately retreated sideways. Camille with delight noted that it was a real miracle. Renaud recalled that she once said, it was no longer possible to get a special magic stone for the resurrection, and she asked with interest if it was true. Camille only nodded back, confirming her words. The hero wondered how you can breathe life into the average magic stone. Rails watched him with a shade of distrust in his gaze. He wondered if he really faced Aston. Looking at Xenos, he noticed that he seemed to have already realized everything. He stressed that it was impossible to get the magical stone for the golem core, so he wondered if he would be able to return life by creating a less quality stone. He made the decision to take a living person and uniting it with a magic stone to create a new nucleus for the golem. Although this idea flashed in my head, it is usually almost impossible to influence a person in which a complex cocktail of emotions rages. That is why the one whose negative feelings are simple and easy to catch is better for this case. And just such a person was nearby. The unrestrained desire for revenge, the man consumed a magical crystal so that he was able to breathe life in his own golem. I wondered in the haystream what he conceived for the completion of this battle. He noted that such an unhappy soul awaits something truly exciting. The hero focused carefully without looking at the golem. He barely uttered these words as they went back. Looking at Aston, he noted that now only they remained in this room. He noted that their joint path began just when he first turned to him, because he usually was not interested in rescuing children. The man who addressed them looked as if he had escaped from the very lower classes of society. Gale noted his obsession with money and status. Huma explained that the reason lies in the past. He could not get the medicine for his younger sister, and she died. Suddenly, everyone was engulfed in a fierce rage. They were overwhelmed by the main character, letting their fists. Varner noted that it was impossible to endure the spectacle for the golem. The priest's once she was, and then rejected, now looks happier than himself. He was always a wonder, from where he realized that he had no shelter. But now Varner finally penetrated this feeling, which, like him, did not have his corner in the world. Killam struck a powerful blow, lifting a thick cloud of dust. He used the leg reinforcement without hesitation and bounced back. It no longer attracted his attention, so he pulled out his magic scalpel. Shouting loudly, he rushed forward to the golem, squeezing a massive scalpel in his hand. The hero wedged a scalpel, drawing crushing blows on stone blocks. He brought the scalpel with a scope and plunged it directly into the chest. He was able to cut the hole. His unexpected appearance from the body of Golem jumped everyone by surprise. The characters were surprised that they had to meet him again here, although they did not want it. This was the last opportunity to see his face. Grasping the scalpel, he rapidly rushed to Aston. She announced that the moment had to put a point in their common adventure. Her final decision was pushed by blood. One of the observers noted that he made this choice, though he doubted whether he could strike without hesitation. He hoped for a more dramatic and acute solution to events. He immediately felt that something suspicious in this situation listened. The hero did not get tired of waving a scalpel unbridled, struck by a blow without a slightest rest. If you noted that it was a little painful and should be patient, Link was asked why the dock was being taken for so long. Levi, in response, assured that he was just preparing to quickly take everything under one blow. Third, Zeno seems to have joined something really incredible. He moved on. The conductor realized this movement was not a normal sword-waving. The conductor explained that by destroying the stone, he simultaneously restores his own body. He said that he removed the area that had grown with the magic stone, and then gradually restored the parts that managed to clear from the fragments of this stone. He understood that the slightest mistake can turn to Aston fatal, but even a moment of delay, and the magic stone will immediately take the place of restored fabric. The man wondered if Aston had already come to mind. He added that even in the case of Aston's death, everyone will sigh with relief, both the world and others, and even he himself. One of the team members again raised the question of the content of everything that is happening. In response, the protagonist ironically asked if he had gone crazy. He noted that the culprit destroyed himself, so there is nothing to punish. Therefore, they decided to trace the necessary organizers of this case. And if he was destined to fall, then first of all, it is necessary to reveal where the main inspirer of this conspiracy is hidden. This, as he emphasized, became their first reason. He emphasized that the second reason was that he was donated to him by suddenly saved Lily and embark on the healer. In total, one coin became decisive and completely changed his life. He noted that there is also the third, the most significant reason why the accusations against him are inappropriate. He explained that the reason lies in his healer's abilities. It struck him to the heart. In the end, he escaped from the power of a magic stone. He asked him whether it was clear to him, calling him a fool. To which the man assured that he understood everything, and added how extraordinary he was. However, he got rid of everything and wondered if his life was still meaningful. The hero emphasized that everyone should make a similar choice. Justin confessed that he could not understand why this person suddenly moved to the side of the villains. She always supported their camp. At the same moment, it seemed to swept a wave of hostile. Throughout his life, he obeyed the will of others, allowing them to control themselves, and eventually turned into a true puppet. An incredibly ironic turn of fate. He confessed that his previous words had no real sense, but he still asked to allow at least this one opinion. He fell down in front of Xenos, sincerely sorry. He is only embarrassed by the nape of the head, throwing a look that could rise Aston to lift his head. But the guy did not calm down. He exclaimed loudly that he had not heard any apology. Smiling, he emphasized that it was quite difficult to strike from such a position, and asked if it really was. The hero activated the strengthening, filling his fists with unprecedented force. He confessed that he deliberately hid the magic stock for this situation. Looking at the enemy, he politely asked him to stay a little. Renault noted that the real reason why he gave him life lies that he could not enjoy the revenge. Struck by the one who was without his mind. Raising, he noticed Krishna. She reported that she appeared here when she found out about the Munavisk attack and reminded that she was their second meeting. She emphasized that last time he fled. I wondered where I went. The girl explained that she met him here, and he shared with her everything that had happened. She was enthusiastically noted. A real miracle that in such a terrible catastrophe, no one died, and it was Zeno saved his life. The guy confirmed her words. The heroine announced that she nominated by Berengel's Ashton's prosecution of an attack, escape from the scene, false testimony, the organization of revenge, hooliganism, intentional damage to property, and a number of similar offenses for which he was detained. In addition, he was found guilty of an obscene attack. The man agreed with all points of the accusation. The girl also noted that she asked for something to pass. He noted that he really got rid of everything. She noticed that the hero also asked to pass on another thing. He stretched the coin, explaining that it was a kind of payment for Aston to leave him alone. The man was stunned by such a gesture. I noted that they also joined the detachment of the Imperial Guard. It seems that at that time everything began to change. It is rumored that it is the healer from the heart of the slums that the main driver of all these transformations, and always boils a restless life, full of noise and fuss. He promised not to forget Xenos and combine efforts again in the future when they play together again. The girls surrounded him and quickly lifted him. Then the guy, looking in surprise, asked what they invented. Sophia asked why the doctor, who is usually so confident in them, was suddenly lost. Lingo picked up her question, but Levi advised not to cunning in saying directly. She nodded as a sign of consent, noting that it was sometimes worth doing. Together they reached the house. She emphasized that Camilla was so worried about Synops that she just couldn't sit still. She was throwing a house, as if in search of a way out. She exclaimed that the girl behaved recklessly. She frankly confessed that she was also alarming about this event, but she had no doubt at heart. He would definitely return. The hero was welcomed at home, happily greeting. When Aston appeared in front of him, he was secluded in Gloshen. He first offered him a place in his team, and then expelled mercilessly. Only now did the guy realize that he was never a real part of this circle. However, having overcome all the difficulties, he discovered something much more important. Renault with delight noted that it was here that he feels like at home. He was in the Imperial Medical Hospital, the main shelter of the healers of the majestic Huz Empire, which was also called the Sun Empire. I was approaching Dr. Becca, determined to ask her a question that had not been resting for me for a long time. The man wondered that she lies behind her smile and what happened. She plunged into reflections for a moment. Is it possible for the inept healer to have the highest level magic? He wondered if something unusual happened, because he was expecting that she would call him for lunch. The girl calmly answered that she had already eaten. She confessed that she wanted to ask a rather unusual question. She was curious to know if it is possible. Becca asked for a little time to consider everything. He noted that the lack of a license probably means either a lack of official education or the fact that the exam remained unchanged. The girl agreed with that. However, he added that in his opinion, in this case, this person could achieve a considerable level of skill. She appreciated how incredible it is because not everyone, and only after many years of hard work. First you need to go the path of the student, then move to the base level, then medium. And only then does the road open to the highest stage of skill. Only exceptional talents, which have demonstrated incomparable skills and achievements, acquire the right to belong to the narrow circle of the elite. They wondered, not surprisingly, that a person without mentors could reach such heights. We agreed. It is really impressive. He noted that he would have met with great pleasure with such a person if he had already existed, even if it could have caused some inconvenience. If such activity violates the rules, it should be stopped immediately. The girl confirmed it without hesitation. He asked what her real question was. His answer was completely captured by the woman by surprise. Asking other healers why the headquarters was so delayed with the sending of support to the slums, I noted that if they are really seriously injured, it may be too late to save them. One of the healers only indifferently shrugged and said that they could do nothing, because it is only about the wilds. He became aware that the Imperial guards detained the suspect, and all the details were kept secret so as not to sow panic among the population. However, when they finally arrived in place, they expected real surprise. Buildings converted into solid ruins. The guy could not understand that the monster really existed. He seemed to be only legends. He asked where the terrifying monster went, who made so much disaster. After a brief meeting, they decided to first find all the victims and gather them together, involving the local residents. When we learned that there were no victims, it was difficult for us to believe it. We turned to everyone in a row, and everyone assured, the healer here is nothing. The girl was a lot of ignition, she shouted indignantly, as it was possible when she wanted to do good. The guy quietly added that he has one guess. He noted that there were no real casualties. The residents simply played the whole scene to bring a disorder and panic to the central office. Inadvertently thought, what is the point of destroying their homes just for the sake of the performance? Moreover, if one of the relatives were really injured, they would definitely seek support. This idea has caused her anxious anticipation. We believed that all the victims were still in place, and someone else was engaged in healing. It was probably the highest magician, capable of treating even severe wounds. She remembered that she had already heard of an uncross healer, but she could not understand where it became known, whether who could predict it. She exclaimed that it was impossible, though. Realizing that she was saying something absurd, the girl was confused for a moment and covered up, hesitating or not being silent. She asked what she thought about. What could have it out of thinking so much? Looking at her, he noted that he was going to go home and wondered if she wanted to make him a company. In response, she noted that she had recently taken food with her. Lucas said that one of the key missions of the Imperial Hospital is to visit patients at home and support those who live in medical abandoned areas. He carefully asked if this situation was inspired. She thoughtfully answered, "It may be exactly." The doctor assured that he understands her well but warned, excessive anxiety can seriously harm her health, and it should not be allowed. Demonstrating the envelope, he noted that he had another important thing. A request to return home. Passing the envelope, he noted that this place is perfect for those who are tired of daily worries. There are constantly found those who seek to restore strength and find healing. The girl was amazed at how many people gather here, whole companies. She hoped that it would be easier to find the one who was so persistently looking for. And Xenos reported that the person who was behind the golem attack could not be exposed. It is only known that he introduced himself as a mentor. The hero mentioned that this leader was a participant in a secret guild, who did not shy away from any work, adapting to the situation. He promised not to forget his name and find a way to thank him when a good time would come. The girl agreed, but noted that there is another important detail. She shared that, having arrived in the hidden shelter, which advised Aston, she did not find anyone there. No living soul, no hint of his presence. The hero ironically remarked, "She does not lack the desire to interfere in other people's affairs, but she is silent about herself." On this she only shrugged, saying her own life to tell her uninteresting, much tasty, listening to other people's fascinating stories with a good drink. Phias noted that she also tried to find additional information about the conductor. She shared that she asked her younger brother to explore the details of the secret guild. It became known that the guide only appeared there recently. They said that he is a foreigner who avoids communicating with other members of the organization. She confessed that she tried to find out the truth, but only came across such rumors. And if you assume that in the world of the dead is still their own immune system, I believed that the interrogation had only limited efficiency and is unlikely to get the desired results. At the scene, the Imperial Guard searched the leader, who was considered a particularly dangerous criminal. Lost in the crowd and carefully masking his mark, he disappeared into the underground. Sophia assured that he would certainly appear over time, and it was then that she would be able to bring him to clean water. The Linga supported her, noting that all this, undoubtedly, lies some insidious plan. Levi also added that it is an enemy that cannot be caught so, and probably he is in his secret shelter. He turned to them, directly calling the thugs, and advised to put an end to the empty chats, suggested to express his position clearly and essentially. Sophia broke out with indignation, and wondered if she was making a guess. This Krishna calmly responded that not, because her judgments rely on a thorough investigation and the evidence collected. Damings urged everyone to calm down. He advised them to calm down and stretch their voices while they stand differently in different corners, to pronounce it aloud. She wondered what brought him here. Hearing Hina's proposal to prepare a report for interested persons, everyone agreed that it was a really brilliant idea. Then she wondered who was distracted by Mr. Zeno from his important cases. Lizardman waved, calling it empty chats. Then Krishna wondered if he should prove the opposite. After his gaze, Zero noted that he was too tired for controversy today, and therefore suggested that everyone disperse at home. I was settled by an unexpected opinion about Aston. It turned out that no one but me pronounced the name Z during any of the interview. She noted that the merits of Sinos were constantly multiplying. He replied to this that he did not want to be the center of attention, did not chase after glory or recognition. It is enough for him to receive a reward for his work in a timely manner. The girl just smiled, emphasizing that she was waiting for such an answer from him. She promised to inform him immediately as soon as the semiconductor. She treated the hero with fragrant tea and suggested to taste the flavors. He thanked her politely for her attention. She returned to him and called him. She just slept an interesting idea. The hero was looking forward to what it was about. She may have remembered how difficult he had during a recent battle with Golem. He noted that he had not felt such fatigue for a long time. He suggested a little distracted and relaxing together, inviting her to go somewhere. The girl was embarrassed from unexpectedness that she spoke only the first letter of answer. Lily shouted indignantly, insisting that they would go together, but such a decision did not suit him at all. Recognizing, she decided to say that she had it with her. But suddenly, Zofia emerged from the door, and without holding back the excitement, called the doctor loudly. She later wondered if she was okay, and did she forget anything. The girl became aware that they say she had a small business to him, and waited for the Ling and Levy to leave them together. She wondered if he was too hard for him during the last duel with the golem. The hero acknowledged that he had not felt such exhausting fatigue for a long time. Zofia nodded, and noted that it was for this reason that she decided to turn to him. Maybe they should visit Anson? He described a cozy, spacious pool with pleasantly warm water, in which any fatigue disappears instantly. Zenos supported this idea, saying she was really wonderful. The girl was happy to smile and reminded him of his promise. Ling entered the room. The hero wondered if everything was fine and whether she left something important. The girl barely smiled and confessed that she had one small offer. She offered to visit Anson, noting that a joint food and hot water will help him to relax and get tired. Anand did not argue. He agreed immediately. Lingi with a smile reminded him that he had already promised it. Hansen is encouraged by the premonition that his assumption will be correct. Surprising his eyebrows, he asked how he was able to solve it, and noted that they thought exactly the same. The hero emphasized that girls really think on one wave. Suddenly, Krishna suddenly appeared. She announced she wanted to make one offer. Zenos exclaimed with surprise, not waiting to hear that she has her plan. She said goodbye to her girlfriend, and he wondered. She joined the singing with everyone, and why this Anson causes so much admiration. Then he asked Lily with a question, what she wanted to say. To add irritation a pinch by a pinch as if to pour powder, she turned her back sharply and dropped out loud that it would change nothing more. The hero was confused and lowered his eyes. During the departure, one of the heroines in passing noted that she had not been to Anson for a long time. It made the protagonist think, maybe she really wants to go back there. The resort town of Frem, located only in the south of the royal capital, is known throughout the district with its healing mud and life-giving sources. Immersed in warm water, Zenos could not but note the true luxury and pleasure given by this place. He realized that he appeared here at the right moment. Someone was talking to him, and the hero turned to find out who it was. Suddenly, Sophia emerged right in front of him. Only then did he realize that he had got to the male section. The girl suggested at least a little to massage his back, emphasizing that such a trip deserves pleasant memories. The hero advised her to return to the female half until everything ended in a loud dispute. However, the leader of the lizards assured that there was no reason to worry. She has just hung a cleaning plate, so now this place only belongs to them. When she came to the doctor, she exclaimed that only 2 were left in this room. She confessed that she believed. All this happened only because their paths had crossed. The girl emphasized that he not only heals mental wounds, he was able to change the person from the inside. She was certain. The world would also change next to it. But the hero only modestly noted that it sounds too loud. She felt an invisible magnet pulls her to something meaningful. He suddenly exclaimed loudly, confessing that he was burning a flame inside, and she had to act as carefully as possible to catch his way and catch him suddenly as possible. Suddenly on the horizon, a linkage emerged and turned to Zofia loudly, urging her to stop because she confidently stated, "It is unjust." Her heart squeezed with excitement. People with noise began to discuss what the male part of the company was doing, interested in their actions. The head of Lizerman answered that nothing special was happening, and asked what Tar was busy. Ling, without hiding her intention, loudly declared her desire to freshen up and jumped directly into the water. The hero, surprised by such a sudden antics, asked if she was not really joking. Sophia exclaimed with irritation so that the linga did not fit the shore so carelessly. Ling smiled at this and, slightly joke, said that her head would suddenly become dizzy. Sophia with sarcasm asked if weakness could really be subdued someone with such enviable endurance. She exclaimed loudly, demanding that they stop, and indignantly wondered if they had forgotten about her presence. She exploded with a loud laughter and confessed, hiding in the water in anticipation of Xenos, suddenly fainted, and her friends returned her consciousness. The hero asked if she had taken too much. He noted that her style is really impressive. Zofia answered indignantly, categorically denying this opinion. Ling, however, remained in its own way, emphasizing that it was thanks to it that the whole company looks elegant. The doctor jokingly added that, to be honest, he is better not to interfere with this conversation. "Krishna!" she exclaimed with delight. "Men have already arrived." It showed that for Sophia it was not a single wait, and she would never decide to approach the main character so boldly. In response, he exclaimed that another obstacle was not scared. She fell into a cry, assuring everyone that she would not retreat under any circumstances, and the view of Adzinos with a hot blade would cut her like a flame. After a tumultuous quarrel, her thoughts were raging, like a fire from the restless rage. He commanded everyone loudly and with unconcealed power to move to the side of women immediately. She said she deliberately stopped in the courtyard, where visitors rarely appear. It would be a real disappointment to meet in such a cozy place of suspicious strangers. In addition, it seemed almost impossible for her a mysterious and extremely talented healer would decide to hide in the shadow. Heads of clans and Krishna. Sophia was indignant that Krishna has no right to command her. Linga noted that perhaps the girl was just ashamed. Levi with a smile suggested that Sophia, on the contrary, would seek even more to paint her naked body. The woman herself was stunned. These people seemed to her real Zakvalians. She was surprised by a picture where creatures of different species communicated side by side. Zofia approached her, carefully asking whether she needed any help. The girl only politely shook her head, assuring that she had everything he needed. After looking at the girls who were already moving, I inadvertently listened to their conversation. Unexpectedly, one of them noted that everything was in their hand. I felt a real surprise and began to look around. Lily appeared on the surface of the water. The youth was admired, remembering how attractive it was and the Elfian. She thought, if she had such a perfect physique too, apparently, she would not hesitate to change her likeness to human. This unexpected idea surprised it. Camilla mercifully comforted Lily, convincing her that there was no cause for anxiety. She has a long time to grow up and be maturing. She noted that large sizes do not necessarily make the thing more attractive. The girl cut off the conversation sharply, and Ray added that there are topics that are still unattainable for children's understanding. He noted that this day her body looks even more transparent. Camilla focusedly examined herself, staring at her own outlines. She turned to the merciful Buddha with anxiety, wondering whether her ascension to heaven testifies to the future of disappearance. Lily, covered with fear, rushed, desperately shouting her name. We look at them and inquisitively ask if everything is fine. When she cast her gaze on Camilla, she wondered if it was more than once. The frightened girl quickly drew a magical circle and asked nervously why there were so many powerful dead around. The ghostie warned that she would disappear all day and flew into the sky rapidly. She was shouted after her, forbidding to do so. Ling turned to Hei with the question, "Why not?" Nabin looked at the robbers with surprise, noting what impressive immobility they were sitting, as if nothing had changed for them, and nothing happened. A girl was sitting at the next table. The rest of the girls were overtaken by thoughts, they say. She has long been directing a vigilant, almost enemy look. It felt a wave of hostile. Then he looked back to the stranger, reassured her with words that it was impossible to do such a harsh mine, and suggested that he join his company. The girls were outraged that they would in no way do it, because none of the fighters of the Imperial Guard, who are on the guard of the law, will raise a glass in honor of the leaders of the criminal world. When asked about Camilla Lily's location, she shared the news. She became aware that Camilla decided to retire and drink in her own room. The hero thought thoughtfully about it. She was walking forward, repeating the dish was so appetizing that it was simply impossible to stay. I had to overthrow. Smiling, she promised herself to return here with her friends and her Ghoul brothers next time. However, when her hand had already reached for the door handle, something suddenly made her stop. A strange feeling covered the girl. She suggested that the reason was ordinary fatigue, so she decided to go to bed without delay. However, as soon as the door opened, it was a real surprise. Deft blows were heard in silence. We looked up, after which the head rushed to the other door and took the handle. She was sitting there, slightly fastened, noting how the hops are increasingly spreading in her veins. Emile said the girl had confused the door and disappeared slowly into the wall. However, although he hinted at one thing, the result was completely different, which caused him genuine surprise. Lillian, turning his back, announced that they had returned. He asked Camilla to ask if something was happening in the next room, but in response, she shrugged. They say she did not notice anything and suggested that it just seemed to him. Lily was a little rest, and then returned to the living room. Starting on the couch, he confessed that he felt exhausted. The girl wondered if she had fun in the bank. He replied that he was really entertained, at the most time. She still dreamed of splitting a glass with Mr. Xenos. He said that they have a kind of competition. Who drinks the most, he gets the right to put another on his knees. Camille convinced him that all this holiday was organized for him, so doubts and fun. The girl told that she is a spirit that is able to settle in things that have a special connection. In the afternoon, her essence lived in the same stick she took with her. When asked if this stick symbolizes it, Camilla confidently answered the affirmative. He suggested that he lift a glass, jokingly calling the unhappy who was too much of women's hobbies. He lifted the cup, and the girl generously poured him a drink. Crossing the threshold of the room, she noticed a woman who tried hard to bring her husband. She wondered if everything was fine with the woman and what really happened. The woman explained that her husband usually took care of the dishes, and when she went to the kitchen herself, suddenly a sharp crackling. It scared the girl. She exclaimed that he should be delivered to the healer immediately. To what another woman is moving to confess, she is the healer. This unexpected revelation was a lot of stunning the first. She was hopeful and despair for salvation. She assured that she would make efforts. She would try to invent something and draw a magical circle. She wondered his well-being, and in the incentive she promised, she would certainly save him. She thought, although magic temporarily quenches the pain and does not allow the wound to deepen, it is better to deliver this man to the city medical center as soon as possible. His fingers were severely burned. It is possible that complete recovery will be impossible, and keep a kitchen knife he is unlikely to ever. I was looking for the right words to share this news with it, as I suddenly heard someone's interested voice. What happened? Xenos. It seemed to him that he had heard an explosion, so he was curious about his interest in finding out what was the matter. The last guess was the assumption that it is necessary for burns with magic stone. Vomin exclaimed that she wants to send him to the Imperial Medical Center in the city as soon as possible, because he will be able to heal it there thanks to powerful, high-level magical symbolism. The hero did not hide the surprise. He did not even suspect that such a place exists at all, and added that it sounds quite exciting. But it turned out that it was quite superfluous. The girl stopped stunningly. He quickly ran and wondered what had happened. Xenos reassured him, explaining that there was a small fire that had already been taken under control. It was time to go, and they immediately went on the way, because he did not want to lose this chance. He exclaimed feverishly, ordering to stop, and inquisitively asked where he was heading. He quickly turned, casting his eyes on his fully healing hand, and did not resist joy. The woman was just delighted. She immediately began to thank the other women present. although she still was surprised on her face. She could not stop how all this happened, how he managed to cure horrible burns without a single magical symbol in an instant. It seemed that such miracles were subject to only the most prominent healers gifted with holy energy. It was confused. She rushed into the corridor, and from there she ran outside. Just opposite the threshold stopped the carriage. The girl immediately realized, this time it happens in reality, not in her dreams. In the end, it turned out that somewhere in this country really lives a mysterious healer of unsurpassed skill, which prefers to stay in the shade. He shared with Bexa everything that happened. She remembered how she watched the raid, sitting with a sake bottle, completely relaxed, while around the bandits from the warring clans were unexpectedly communicated without enmity. The doctor noted that I was glad of her small rest, though, he confessed. Some anxiety does not leave his thoughts. He was in doubt about the legendary healer who healed a heavy burn in a moment. However, the girl persistently convinced him that everything really happened. She wondered if they would be controlled if it was opened without a license. Becca suggested that most likely it would happen. There will be no more than a dozen healers of such a high level throughout the country, and each of them is in weight of gold. The state, undoubtedly, wants to keep such indispensable experts under its close supervision. Having expressed, Lily suggested that his name was probably Xenos. However, having viewed the list of all registered healers, she did not find any mention of such a person. Dr. Ashtiff wondered if some more memories had fallen into her, to which the girl quietly replied that there is very little time. She noted that nothing could be done at this time. He does not give the impression of an evil person, so just leave him alone will not harm him. However, if a manager learns about it, they will definitely get a reproach. Suddenly, an important detail floated in her memory. It was said that the healer was dressed in a black cloak. The doctor's face changed at once. He asked once again whether a high-level master was really a mysterious healer in a dark cloak. The girl wondered if everything was fine with him. On this, the doctor only shook his head, saying, changed his mind. He stressed that he would be familiar with him, because he considers him one of the most prominent healers. The hero complained that he was suffering from abdominal pain in the morning. In addition, he had the temperature, so he asked Lily to help him fall into bed. The girl agreed without hesitation and carefully fulfilled his request. Those who work with the scanner. He drew attention to the inflammation in the stomach and wondered if Sandy had to taste something unusual. The man remembered that yesterday's meat had a suspicious taste. The hero noted that this may well indicate food poisoning. First, it will relieve pain and strengthen the body's defenses. He noted that it would be advisable to put a drip to avoid dehydration, but there is a lack of proper water. Instead, the doctor convinced that as soon as the patient recovers slightly, he would be able to get drunk on his own. The man agreed with this decision. He strongly strengthened and thanked the doctor with gratitude. He advised to protect energy and not to overload himself. Lily was surprised that the hero had the gift of healing even ailments. To her surprise, he explained that everything determines the nature of the disease. He stressed that to remove the affected part is a simple task. However, when the ailment covers the whole body, there is only one thing: to strengthen the body's resistance. Thanos noted that in combination with medicines it really gave the best result. However, without a license, he was deprived of the opportunity to buy the necessary medicines. When it became known that the medicine was ready, it helped to save a lot of lives, and he realized the incredible force of the drug. The girl thought carefully, feeling the true interest. Xenos wondered what happened when they went to the house. Sophia strictly reminded that it is not time to rest now. I apologize, but with this request I cannot help. She emphasized that, in her opinion, approaches to the treatment used by Mr. Zeno were really particularly originality. It was because of this uniqueness that he gained recognition. He asked what was required of him. The hero was confused for a moment, and then clarified who was looking for him. The doctor exclaimed that he was not the person who was waiting from the Anzen Paflam. How did he know that that man works in the Imperial hospital? Levi immediately thought that may not have to worry about this issue. She emphasized that the inhabitants were grateful to him, and in her opinion, no one dares to speak once again. The girl also noted that Imperial K was not able to sow as much disorder as the conductor brought. She thought inadvertently, suddenly, if you leave everything as it is and just not pay attention, it's somehow embarrassed on its own? Zeno stopped thoughtfully. Healing. They were informed that they would have to wait a little, and what will happen next, it would be clear later. Told Beck that it was deprived of any sense. She combs the wilds daily, but no matter how much she asks the locals, everyone just breeds her hands. No one has no idea where he went. Why did they decide to focus only in the area? They assured that if the healer was engaged in underground activities just in the city center, rumors would have long been flying. If no one was injured during a monster attack, it undoubtedly points to his close links with the poorest quarters of the city. The girl, how long she has been traveling with these huts. The woman said in response that it had been 10 days. Hearing this, Becca warned her. It is time to leave such interrogations, because she has her affairs, and so, though, and do not need to overload herself superfluous. At the same time, Becca emphasized that she could not simply throw everything and leave to the false. He advised to seek support from the management. The doctor regretted this with regret. The collected information is not enough to make a full report. Will has shouted in surprise. Would they really leave everything unfinished? But he only nodded. She noticed that the girl from the shelter no longer comes. He only said that even better. The robot, carrying a person on the shoulders, reported that he was seriously ill. He asked if that man really lay in the middle of the road. Lamshir nodded, confirming the words. He explained that the stranger had coughed with blood, so he decided not to leave him to die on the street and take it to Xenos. Lily added that if he had been left there, everything could end with an outbreak of an epidemic. The characters praised Sandy for the right decision. They carefully transferred the patient to the bed, after which the doctor immediately took the scan. The lungs of the boys were seriously damaged, especially in the upper areas. Suddenly he was pierced by sharp fear. He made a gesture to retreat. Lily wondered what happened. The hero only whispered, "Struck. It is something incredible." Suddenly he grabbed his feet and exclaimed in delight, "It is incredible." He was struck by exceptional diagnostic abilities. He noted that if even the smallest gossip has not been able to get in 10 days, it means that either such a person does not exist at all, or he is carefully hidden. And if the second option occurs, it indicates the great trust of the inhabitants of the slums to that person. The young man approached the mysterious healer who appeared from the ruins and politely asked for permission to introduce. He then named his name. Enable Betsy, healer of the highest rank from the Imperial Medical Hospital. He noted that therapeutic magic is not quite his element. Hearing this, he was genuinely surprised. There was a healer of the highest level in front of him. He was interested in the reason for such a significant consumption. The doctor was already going to explain, but suddenly he was called. "You have appeared on the doorstep." The hero called her, recognizing in her a girl from the flames of Inbai. In response, she noted that it was really the same healer they were looking for, and he was now here. The girl turned to her sharply and exclaimed angrily that this guy was only skillfully giving a serious illness. He is already treated, and she must follow him, because it is of great importance. In response, he said coldly that otherwise all efforts would be in vain. The blood cough began. It was terribly scared of me and Lily. It's a shame. You expect a light echo, but in fact a powerful wave is rolled. The Hay cast a look at him. Dr. Becky wondered how he got into such a difficult situation. The man replied concisely that everything happened surprisingly. He got a glass and explained that in order to play us seriously ill, he drank a special drink, which briefly causes symptoms of tuberculosis. This substance is rapidly destroyed in the body without causing any harm or pointing a danger to life. In addition, the man assured that he had already accepted the antidote, so he threatens his health. After that, the hero wondered where he got such a drink. Leonard said he had created this drink on his own, remembering how he had once invented a cure for tuberculosis. This confession was amazed by ZNO, but Vuman confirmed his words. He was enthusiastically shared, "Doctor." Becca created a medicine not only from tuberculosis, but also from whooping cough and scarlet fever. For his brilliant merits, the doctor received an increase and deserved the reputation of a prominent personality. Taff, a little lost, assured that he would be on her side because there was nothing wrong with that. They realized that it was time to take up work, although it seems that the official permission for medical activities did not receive it here. Sandy engulfed excitement. He sincerely apologized to the hero, openly pleading his guilt. He assured that he would make every effort to restrain the enemy and give others a chance to escape. However, Lily exclaimed that they would not leave Cynos for the way, because the whole team rests with him. Someone suggested that you contact him for help in this matter. The doctor noted that this is an internal business that does not apply to it. The girl answered that sometimes it is easier to interfere with a stranger. She emphasized that it was this idea that had flashed into her head when her husband suddenly said that he would go in search of him. Becca told that when he heard about a mysterious healer in a black cloak, she immediately mentioned an old friend. However, it became clear that he was a completely different person. However, his gaze stopped exclusively on a clothes hanger. Bernard wondered in Zeno if his cloak. In response, he nodded, adding that once this thing belonged to his mentor. Doctor wanted to find out the name of the mentor, and he only shrugged with his shoulders. He never learned, because his teacher never opened his name. And it was at this moment that Beko suddenly announced that she changed her opinion. They reported that they intend to entrust this mission to him. The InReach wondered if he was really sure of it. Meanwhile, Dr. Becca asked Zenos to visit the Imperial hospital. The hero is confused with a surprise. He tried to understand whether he was indeed called to the Imperial Center for treatment. Frankly confessing, he asked for his support in this difficult business. According to him, an ideal candidate would be a stranger with medical magic. The hero wondered and detained his breath as he suddenly heard someone's appeal. It appeared in the house, and Sophia urged him not to pay attention to other people's words, not to allow anyone to impose his thoughts. The doctor, calling Becca from the Imperial hospital, he recommended friendly, rejoicing in a new acquaintance. He immediately proposed a favorable agreement, promising to be in exchange to keep his secret secret and not interfere with hidden cases. Zeno inquisitively wondered whether there was some confidence that the promise would be fulfilled. Levi exploded with anger, asking how to rely on a person who serves the government. Turning to the window, he exclaimed these words, seeing the doctor. The building was surrounded by armed units of the Institute of Nagadals. He was engulfed in true horror. Becca shared what she knew. The hero always helped the inhabitants of the slum. But he could not imagine that he would receive such powerful support. So much that for the first time different tribes united to protect him. He noted that probably this has never happened. He apologized for his unacceptably sharp behavior, emphasizing his own whine. Zenos wondered if he was capable of a completely honest and transparent request. He added that he was open to the negotiations and is ready to offer fair payment. The agreement is concluded. She called him by name. Sophia wondered if he was really confident in his decision. The heroes expressed a genuine interest in the Imperial Medical Institution because now there was a profitable map in their sleeve. They had something to thank for the secrecy of their illegal maneuvers. In addition, it was noted that Becca deliberately played the role of a seriously ill. Although he could effortlessly put someone else, secretly pouring poison, it was noted that the fact that the doctor did not take such a step testified to his favor. Ernord confessed that he needs to forgive himself. Zeno added that during the tuberculosis outbreak, the medicine was distributed free of charge, and this helped save a lot of lives, if Becca really decided on it. The woman noted that many people opposed such an idea, but it was the doctor who herself carried medicines on his own. The hero noted that this is only one of the fragments of all history. Beck pulled his hand forward. The hero is solemnly greeted in the walls of the Imperial Hospital. He perceived the Imperial Hospital as the center of healing, which rises in the heart of the prestigious quarter of the aristocracy, strictly in the administrative zone. He was struck by the greatness and feature of this place. This indicates a huge scale of this place. It is very easy to get lost here. In the beginning, he advised to look into his laboratory. Together, they went a narrow corridor, walking side by side. They climbed the stairs and carefully opened one of the door, going inside. The room barely contained a variety of books. The hero felt her atmosphere envelops him with peace. Ernord warned, "It is not necessary to discuss this room of a stranger as if it were a solitary repository of a hermit." Damo wondered whether the case of the missing person was in fact. Suddenly, everyone remembered that one of Dr. Beck's colleagues from his laboratory disappeared. He said that he never appeared at home, and despite his appeal to the administration, they were indifferent to it. Ernord emphasized that due to the ambiguity of the situation to attract the Imperial Guard will not work. Having accepted the proposal, he emphasized that the search for people is not included in the sphere of their competencies. The doctor added that they were in a desperate position, so there was nothing left but there was a request to ask him to help gather the necessary information. He noticed that it was sometimes easier to go unnoticed when you seem like a guest and show your badge. In addition, he emphasized that students who have completed the appropriate course may, on the recommendation of joining the educational program of the Imperial Medical Hospital. Doctors noted that patients turn to them from different departments, so collecting the necessary data will be easier. Zenos wondered if there would be no doubt about his personality. Doctors convinced that there were no reasons for worries. In his last battle, he revealed a new hero's hypostasis, which is now known as Zenos. After recent return from abroad, it was talked about again. The man has explained that a detailed check of a person is usually needed, but his position only limits himself to formality. Hearing this, Xenos asked if such condescension means that, in case of mistake, all responsibility for his actions would lie on Ernord's shoulders. She emphasized that training on the program starts from tomorrow, so now the hero can settle in a hostel. While he is equipped, she promised to take care of him. She gladly congratulated him with his return, meeting right in place. He asked what brought her here. One of the present recalled how Dr. Beck assured her, "You can live here with her husband or closest relatives." In response, Jarrus stressed that such an exceptional condition for her because she is the bride. However, someone immediately denied, this is not the case, because Lily is officially recorded by the younger sister Zeno. Hearing this, Lily cleaned her lips offensively. Daryl noted that if it had happened to one of the loved ones, everyone would feel much calmer. She promised that she would completely take control. The hero sincerely thanked her for her support. "Tomorrow," the girl said, after which she left the room quietly. She kindly turned to Xenos, gently calling him loved. He wondered if she had made a disaster because she considered it too timid. The girl responded only by a deep sigh. Then the guy asked who she took such agility and ingenuity. Neil indicated that it was her hands. The hero was stunned by the unexpected appearance of the girl and, without holding back the surprise, loudly asked what brought her here. He wondered with surprise that brought her here. She just shrugged. They say, everything was obvious. I just wanted to try it for strength. Hearing this, he thoughtfully asked, could it happen differently? Neil emphasized that people with such phenomenal abilities for treatment as he have are extremely rare. Zeno once again wondered if the girl said something. Ray calmly replied that she remained silent. He loaned lonely at the table. Jean approached him and asked how he had passed. He sighed in response, confessing that there are many things ahead, and that he did not even imagine how he could become a regular healer. She assured that she realized everything. She explained how the license system works. First, you need to take the necessary exams at the Healer's Training Center. Further, the student is waiting for several years of experience, during which the qualification exam should be overcome. Only then can you get the desired healer license. We noted that I opened several ways in front of me, to serve in the Imperial Healing Department, to gain experience, and to start my own business, to get the title of an adventurer, to join the ranks of military healers, or work exclusively for royal families and nobility. Thanos wondered if the Imperial Doctor was responsible for all present. In the incentive, he noted that those who dream of engaging in research, deepening medical knowledge, mastering the latest approaches in therapy, and joining the growth and administration of these institutions. The hero confessed that after the tricks of Oldus, his head would become dizzy. Before his eyes everything turned, as if colored circles appeared. So far, it was about a missing colleague. The girl confirmed that his name was Alfred, and added that he was her more experienced mentor. He noted that Alfred was distinguished in everything. His sharp mind, kindness, and care left no one indifferent. Someone remembered how Dr. Becca proudly told that he also played an important role in creating medicines against tuberculosis. She sincerely believes that he will eventually become a doctor of the highest grade. Reno emphasized that such a person really deserves to look for it. At the same time, he noted that it is not necessary to waste time on a senseless persecution without any strategy, and asked, "Are there any capes?" The girl nodded confidently. "There are clues. Here you recognize a few familiar faces." A group of people in the uniforms of Imperial healers moved slowly forward, and a man with a strict, focused face walked in front of all. They wondered who this person was. The girl explained that he was Professor Goldrin, Deputy Director of the Imperial Hospital Healing and Senior Healer of the 7th level. The hero once again asked the 7th level. We explained that the healers were divided into 3 key levels, each of which consisted of 7 degrees. He has reached the highest stage in his skill, exceeding all other healers. They say he is a well-known and authoritative figure. The girl added that the current director is already quite young and often goes on vacation, so all key solutions are actually dependent on the professor. She noticed that since he held the post of deputy director, the atmosphere changed significantly in the Imperial Hospital. Now here they are glad to open the door to wealthy patients, while not hiding bias and neglect for other patients. He told that gossip was going, as if he reached the 7th grade, receiving strong support for influential aristocrats. He always emphasized that it is better to stay away from such, so as not to call on extra hassle. The girl noted that on the contrary, to interest him. It was incredibly impressed by the hero. She reported that Professor Goldrin is likely to be relevant to Alfred. She explained that he invites capable assistants to his laboratory, which is why Alfred invited Alfred to join the team. The hero wondered if Becca received his consent. In response, she said with a smile that he seems to be guilty of money for financial support and could not refuse. He noted that Alfred was missing a month after moving. She shared that every time she turned to Professor Gormania with questions, she only heard the assurance that he did not know anything. However, they continued. Something is wrong here, and the suspicions were only increasing. Zeno showed that he realized her hint but wondered where to start. She convinced that it is not difficult at all. He made it clear that when he participated in the program, he would inevitably open himself. The hero asked if it was more difficult than just to disperse. In response, the girl wondered if he understands at what level she was. It put him in a dead end. Come to Amen and interested what she did in that corner. She returned to him and turned, calling the crescent moon. She answered with a smile that she could eat anywhere where she pleases. LLC carefully asked not to be upset, and explained that she only came to thank her for deciding to stay with their golden team. Then he wondered if the hero of learning was underway at some special course. She ordered him to make every effort to ensure that the person who was assigned to him did not need to worry about his behavior. Zno wondered who this mysterious patron is. In the incentive, she explained that she was her former classmate. He just got to the team of Professor Goldrin as he immediately enrolled himself. She reported that he had already left. The girl nodded, adding that if she remains as always, no problems would arise. The teacher solemnly announced the beginning of the class. Renaud noted that the course starts from a lecture for future servants. The teacher immediately paid attention. His main profile, the treatment of wounded adventurers. Today, it will be about the dead. He gathered the latest information about the strange creatures, which, having lost his life, are still wandering the world. He noted that the unclean cohorts include zombies, vampires, and ghosts. Today, he is going to tell in detail about their unique features and share reliable magical methods for their healing. The teacher returned to the class and asked if there were those who had already encountered unclean. Chrisen Wembley responded to this. He raised his hand, named his name, and added that he was working in Goldrin's laboratory. He noted that for several years he traveled in search of adventures and overcome as many as 30 ghosts. This confession was a lot of struck and stunned by other students. Remember how we went on a special course? He glanced at Xenos. He just glanced in response. He stated that he was able to overcome almost 50 opponents at the same time. The surprised Cresso did not resist and intervened in the conversation. The instructor asked the hero to explain his words in more detail. Zeno replied that everything is quite simple. There are many ghosts in the dungeon, and he can cure them all at the same time. When asked whether the maze of Galmanton was confirmed, this is how he is called. The batter emphasized that even for gold-class detachments to penetrate this maze is a real rarity. Only a few managed to get out of the subsoil, successfully obtaining treasures. He noted that although these words can be exaggerated, it is actually it. He confessed that he himself managed to return, taking with him 7 valuable treasures. The teacher could not hide his surprise. He could not understand what the problem was. Returning to the interlocutor, he warned, "It is not necessary to speak nonsense, only to attract attention." He then wondered what the other 50 ghosts did at the same time. He noted that when they embody the practical part of the program on their own, they would convince what a master of his business. In addition, he emphasized, it is worth picking up words. He nodded briefly at this, promising to take into account. Then another teacher brought a mysterious magical circle on the board. He emphasized that his basic skill is the creation of healing circles, special magical patterns formed with the help of magic lines created, the strength of which is determined by their form. The teacher put several more skilled strokes in the circle, adding important details. He was disappointed with his head. He knew too little about the magical circles. Meanwhile, the teacher asked the class to ask if they were wishing to draw a circle. Then Chrisen confidently raised his hand and asked him to try his hand. He came forward and led the perfect circle on the board. The teacher immediately noted his skill, because in such a short time the task he completed it required very small adjustments. Then the teacher asked others to stop and pause. Jason nodded to Xenos, and noted that this trainee from a special program seems to be burning with the desire to try himself. The hero had already opened his mouth to give up, but he was not left choosing. He had to go to the board. The teacher encouraged him. advising not to delay and take this chance to learn something. And Crescent, in a manner inherent in his manner, joked that he was a little bitten. Also, a useful experience. The hero took the chalk and thought for a moment. He explained that it is more of an additional skill, but it may well be useful, so it would not hurt to find out about it. He assured that he would definitely show his inventive idea, which he created in a moment of rest. He explained that the magic circle would remain inactive if you create it without a proper stock of magical energy. However, in his opinion, magical power is quite enough to activate this circle. The hero decides that this is the perfect opportunity for entertainment, and here's the idea he embodies. He skillfully decorates the board with a huge, sophisticated magical circle, carefully painting every detail. He smiled ironically and asked that the hell took away. It was a wonder. The teacher, without hiding the surprise, exclaimed, noting the magical circle. This is not just about what it would look like in a regular magical circle. The intensifying effect of the infinite spiral acts on the very boundaries of the world. And can this be called regeneration? Xenos noticed an interesting detail. If you lose more than one finger, this mechanism would return only one of them. The teacher, sincerely surprised, asked if it could be possible even in theory. Magical energy was enormous. People are not able to curb it, but the hero boldly assured that to cope with it to his strength. His words were literally stunned by the teacher. He noted that he was experiencing powerful flows of magical energy, and wondered who this Xenos was. The structuralist suggested that the Hay visit his laboratory, which was annoyed by the Crescent. Who does he consider himself to exalt his own person? As soon as Goldrin came to the intention of informing something, he was immediately asked, "What exactly did you want to say?" The guy shared the rumors. They say, some magician won 100 ghosts in one go. The professor wondered if it was not a fiction. The young man assured that he was the one who conveyed this message further. Gordon did not resist, and asked if the healer called himself. The guy said that the magician not only openly declared his healing abilities, but also outlined a mysterious magical circle, which even the assistant professor Fazio had never seen before. The professor asked how he was called at least. In response, he stated that he was specially trained in Xenos. But the professor did not stop and repeated the question. A young woman said a whole pack of zombies appeared in the cemetery. She reported that there would be so much zombies around the pound that it is simply unrealistic to cope without extraneous support. Golaverne advised her to immediately send someone to the rescue, and no longer burden the person with petty assignments in the nave. The girl nodded, agreeing, and was already going to go out. But suddenly the professor turned to her. It is said to have a student who was able to overcome 50 ghosts in one go. If this is not a fiction, the professor noted that it should be taken seriously by his candidacy. He dared to find out if Sinos planned to go hunting for zombies. He confirmed, that's exactly how it is. Camilla quit that it was a real mess. However, the guy just shrugged, they say. For him it is a trifle. The girl, without hiding anxiety, reminded, "At stake zombies." It was reported that zombies suddenly began to flow to the cemetery, an event far from the usual course of things. Camilla plunged into reflections. He noted that thinking on a hungry stomach is not the best idea, so he advised the hero to first support. The man wondered if she was preparing this dish Lily. Having tasted it, he gladly acknowledged that the taste was incredible. Bella wondered if she could have a little chicken, at the same time jokingly warned, if Lily adds carrots, she would never forgive it. Lily smiled and confessed that such words were scared. And Hay was easy to note that Camilla, by the way, is quite capable of eating solid food. I was interested in asking the Hay whether he was planning to go somewhere. The hero reported that he had received the news. The management has already made his decision. The girl was shyly covered, but sincerely confessed that she realized everything. She noted that the impression was that Golden Runners were watching him. Zeno wondered if he seemed to him, emphasizing that he did not do anything special. The woman answered that he is still markedly distinguished from others. He sought to stay like everyone else, and loudly announced the beginning of their journey. He solemnly announced that he had come from the Goldrana laboratory, and from that moment he will manage everything that was happening here. Wagging around his eyes, he said, "Here they are." Before them, the ghosts and zombies were erupted. A spooky procession. The young man stood adamant. His gaze radiated determination. He shouted to everyone to rush on the offensive and rush after him. There is a persistent call to hurry. The Hay completely agrees with this. Doctors find themselves in the siege of a ghost. They create magical circles to cut off the cold. Looking at them, he noted that they attacked the monster in small groups or alone. Behave very carefully. Will quietly replied that it probably only gave such an impression. He concluded that the situation is much more threatening than it seemed at first glance. One of the healers confessed that he came into contact with the spirit. Some from the team exclaimed that when the ghost is physical collision can absorb all the vitality of man. Another participant appealed to the leader, insisting on the need for immediate action. Cress supported this proposal. The dealers were in a dense circle, pressing their backs to each other. Crayson declared loudly that there was no point in destroying them alone, urging everyone to remain stationary. Meanwhile, the runny nose was already breathing in the back of the head, getting closer to the circle. Despite the limited space, they never managed to escape. Then Zeno tried to use magic. The runny nose was overcome that he had taken his breath even from the most experienced healers. The hero noted that he appeared on time, and due to the fact that the enemies were covered with ice crust, it became much easier to destroy them. The monster had already reached the healers, but he decisively rushed to them and attacked all enemies. It seemed that she only habitually threw him a team, not suspecting that the consequences would be so unpredictable. Cressona stunned it, and then suddenly broke out. He asked everyone inquisitive whether someone noticed it, at the same time, scornfully noting that it was nothing for him. Meanwhile, Vorman tried to understand what was happening. The expert noted that his exceptional ward is incapable. She wondered what it really was. The hero agreed, though at first glance he continued to use magic as usual. The teacher noted that it will be unfortunate if someone else is treated with his achievements, so he insisted as soon as possible to inform the management. Of course, this was angered. He wondered what reason he was instructed to watch this newcomer. In response, Xenos wondered what was meant by the word to oversee. He replied that in truth, he was not a place here. The hero decisively ordered everyone to stop. Zombies still remained, so there can be no question of vacation. Crescent stared hard into the distance. Throughout the haze emerged grassy slabs, between which the grass was green. Sir Galb stood over healers like an insurmountable top. The hay convinced everyone that the king of zombie himself was in front of them. Lesin was stunned by the appearance of this Strajevskaya. He could not understand where it came from. He exclamedly exclaimed that they could not cope with themselves, and advised them to immediately call for the aid of those who were left. Others nodded approvedly, but they wondered if they would be able to keep it until the help came. The man hesitantly hesitated. One of the healers, introducing himself to the main one, wondered if he would be able to curb the zombie again by the force of medical magic, as he did it recently. The woman raised his voice, emphasizing that from him, as a representative of the elite of the Center for Research of Goldrons, awaited exactly such skill. However, he was just confused, not having an idea of what to do next. Anxiety, looking at Zeno, Tot wondered if he wanted to advise him to stay away. He turned to the healers with tension, ordered them to immediately call the reinforcements, and he promised to restrain the zombie pressure. They said loudly that they trust him, and put all their expectations on him. Scared, he feverishly sought in his thoughts on how to prepare for the inevitable consequences, clearly understanding that all the guilt lies on it. The supreme hill struck the zombie out, and the feeling of victory burned it from within. He laughed, swaying in front of others and asking whether they noticed, as they were all due to his enchantments. Returning, the guy suddenly noted that the hole on the abdominal zombie had already completely disappeared. The young man was stunned. He couldn't believe his eyes. He swung, and the enemy only miraculously managed to evade the side, escaping from a mighty blow. Line, like a branch, a zombie's hand slowly stretched to the ground, squeezing it with frantic force. Then the ugly creature swung his fist, directing all her rage simply to the Crescent. Crescent cleverly avoided the attack of zombies and exploded. He was wondering if others paid attention to this scene. He mocked zombies, which is why he could not even touch his finger. And Voman noted that they were only running around the monster because there was no one left around. Zeno concluded that the culprit of everything is the king of zombies. He did not resist, and asked why Vomine was so indulgent in zombie, although he had previously argued that he could destroy them all together. On this, Vomine only noted dryly that the man lied. Such an answer struck Zeno, forcing him to be astonished in surprise whether it was true. He replied that he did not need any support, let everyone receive on merit. On this, hero only smiled mysteriously. She wondered his condition, and in response the girl only smiled and noted that she guessed. After all, he did not even rush to call for help. She confessed that she thought in this way, because when they worked together, at least he could find at least his bones. The hero in response called her incredibly good. However, the woman added that there is one serious obstacle. It was reported that the longer the zombie king remains in this world, the more decomposed meat joins his body, enhancing it every minute. Crescent realized delaying time is a futile strategy. And suddenly, the monster managed to strike a powerful blow to his fist. Crescent rejected back, and with a deaf roar he crashed into the ground. Squeezing his teeth with pain, he did not allow himself to stay. Gathering with his forces, jumped sharply, drawing on the slope of the hill for balance. He noted that he had been distracted, and asked if he had come. At this point, the zombie has already stopped at him almost close. The healer again rushed to the attack, pushing it back, but in response he received a new powerful blow from above. The situation intensified so much that he could no longer get full height. In the meantime, the monster clung to his hand and pulled him. He squeezed the man in his palm, and he, crying with all his strength, pleadedly asked to spare and let him go. He was overwhelmed by a bitter feeling of injustice. Crescent was confused, not understanding how to behave in this position. He was getting closer to zombies until there was a step to his mouth. Then, shouting loudly, he sought help. "Apply spells." He reached out to the monster, and at the same moment a giant hill struck her. The creature melted in the air, pouring the space with a shrill cry, and eventually only a bony footprint left on earth raised the damaged Crescent. With a heavy sigh, the guy finally sought help, but the girl quietly advised him to try to get out of the mess on his own, because he looked completely exhausted and was about to cry. In despair, the young man shouted, demanding silence and convincing his ears with his palms. He knows how to correctly ask him for forgiveness. Thinking about the fact that the zombie, like a magnet, pulls to itself the strongest, he realized. In this place probably hides a zombie of a special, higher rank. As Xenos appeared, Camel snored loudly. Lily wondered if Camel was feeling well. She wondered whether she was lying on her. She shared that she has long noticed a royal procession or a similar course. The girl persistently advised everyone to lie down to the ground. When the question was asked whether they were going to expel it, he assured that they have completely different intentions, because first of all, it is necessary to take care of the safety of the general. She may have been safer to stay with him. Lily was so struck by this discovery that she could not hide surprise. She loudly stated her need to speak. Then she added that Xenos, for some reason, seeks to be among the people who are disgusting to him, and that is what, in her opinion, he makes him truly weird. She nodded and added that she could now afford a little rest. I was really interested in how the work of the day will change. He just said that even more complex tasks were waiting ahead. He failed to distinguish between any significant achievements. He introduced himself as proud and confessed that he had recommended that guy the teacher. However, if you judge from such a course of events, a special student clearly did not meet the expectations that he was placed on him. Ford confessed that he inadvertently introduced the teacher to another person and recognized his mistake. Krausen plunged into deep reflections. Focusing, he clenched his fist firmly and was already ready to express what he boiled inside. He noted that he could handle himself, but he appealed to him and a special offer. She was also quite attractive. The man shared that the crowd of zombies and king zombies were actually overthrown by Xenos. God wondered what he tells it. Crescent confirmed, heard, and added that he saw all these events on his own eyes. He apologized and rushed out of the office. God remained, immersed in his own thoughts. Standing on the doorstep, he finally felt that he had fully paid the trainee, who stood out among others. The hero wondered if he did something inappropriate. Ernord reassured him, assured that everything was fine, and suggested joining their company. The woman, when he heard it, was glad and smiled in surprise. Becca stressed that the elimination of zombies seems to be unnoticed for Goldrun's assistance. Renault noted that, obviously, everyone decided that it was a held hand. He frankly acknowledged that he was not aware of all the details, but emphasized, Hero, who is now suspicious, actually exists. He noticed that many secretaries were always spinning around Goldrun's teacher, and perhaps one of them recommended Xenos, asked what it could mean. Erdogan regretted that they would still have to talk to the teacher in person. The hero engulfed disappointment. The man noted that the professor pays considerable attention to manners and appearance. They say that he has the gift of healer, but his magical power is quite modest. He emphasized the political activity of the professor and his rather agile ways of attracting funding, focusing on rumors that he allegedly gained his position not without solid monetary infusions, and the support of 7 influential noble families with whom the professor was in close relationships. He noted that despite the fact that the Supreme Healer and Astita held honorary medical positions, their rank did not exceed golden status. Dr. Becker replied that, unfortunately, political powers and official titles are not amenable to direct comparison. When the hero was called, he immediately agreed without even thinking. Erden, meanwhile, sincerely wished him luck. It was noted that most likely with Xenos, everything would be fine. Dr. Becker supported this opinion. Although his abilities are not in doubt, the Goldrin teacher, unfortunately, is often inclined to suspect others, and it is difficult to call this rice an advantage. Aro wondered if that man's man would suspect. In response, the interlocutor advised, "If the situation is intensified, you should be ready to disappear quickly." The woman noted that it was not necessary to joke with such things. Erden, meanwhile, confessed to Xenos. He tried to make it clear that the girl was trusting him,